Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
On Spaced Out Radio tonight. It's Friday night, final Friday of the month, which means it is SOR Roundtable tonight. We're getting into UFOs, UAP disclosure. We'll even throw in a little bit of cryptids and paranormal if we can. We got a power room tonight for all of you, and you all got to just wait and see who our awesome guests are this evening. Let's say hello to all of you, shall we? As we have Ann B in the gold medal position, Race Fan taking home the silver, and Sugar Britches with the bronze medal tonight. There's Gizmo and Chris 716, Brown Dwarf, Kurt M, Penny Van, Mac Geek, Lisa C, D Cohen. How y'all doing? Good to see you. Spacey Tree, Marlena, Donna. Sweet Donna Spencer is back. Sweet Donna Spencer is going to be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio, if you don't mind, to the left of the studio. Human Carl is here. Human Carl is a great veteran of the United States Air Force. We love our veterans around here. Thank you for your service, Human Carl. Ray Bonnell, how you doing, man? Good to see you. Penny Van, Kathy Evans, Dave Walters, game one tonight. Game one tonight. I got to see how we're doing here. I will check up on that here momentarily. Let's go, Giants. That's all I'm saying. Lovely Lavira, nice to have you back. Marty Burback, Nero Stream, and Sundance Kid. How y'all doing? Mama Susan, what's up? Noble Patrick. Doug Shelby is here. The Doug Shelby has arrived, which means we can officially start the show. That's awesome. All right, let's continue on here as we are rounding up what's going on in our chat room. Area 51. Markham, how you doing, buddy? W. David Page, Emmy Tong, my man Millennium, good to see you. Forrest Louis and Rui from Portugal, good to see you. The lovely Katie Page is in our chat room. Katie Page will be signing autographs after the show as well. Line up to the right of the studio, if you don't mind. To the right of the studio. Do not make eye contact. She doesn't like it. She won't sign. She absolutely won't sign. I saw it last year in Vegas. She won't sign. And in Denver last year, won't sign if you make eye contact. Sea Warrior Son, Robert Lamoth, Scott Blight, nice to see you all. Deb from Sac, Melissa Nicole, it's been a while. Nice to have you here. As we continue on with roll call, Deb from Sac again. Sparkles in Facebook land, how are you? Christine Lynn, River Dogma, Chillgasm, Jenny, nice to see you. Forrest Louis, thank you so much for kicking off the Super Chat tonight. The Super Chat is a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. So thank you for your continued support, Louis. We appreciate it. Lightwalkers, NorCal, how you guys doing? Matthew Gutka, Dutch Hank, nice to have you all here. Lee the Bee, the awesome and amazing Kira, thank you for joining us as we continue on with roll call. Digger Dog, Shelly Montgomery, nice to see you. Marlena, nice to have you here. Jerry O'Brien, good to see you as we continue on with our roll call. There's Pixie Lara, Luscious Jules, Zed Hut, and who else do we have here? Let's scroll on down. Okay, I've said all you. Simon, the dog face. How you doing, buddy? All right, Phil Minervino, good to see you. And who else is here? Ayumi Doll, how are you? Moving on, let's see who might be joining us. Amy, Vegas. Oh, she'll be partying with us in Vegas at the second annual fan party. Why not? She lives in Vegas. Why wouldn't she come to our party? She likes us. She really, really likes us. All right up here where my finger is, you're going to see Bill WD-40 join the chat room because, with WD-40, you always want to go in smooth and lube things up for a nice, smooth performance tonight. Nicole Sasquatch is in the chat room. Hi, Nicole. How are you? And let's see, who else we have? Pat Toohey. Good to see you. And Derek Galloway, thanks for joining us. We are running out of time, and let's see if we can get it all in here. All right, we are all caught up. And once again, if you're coming to Vegas, Spaced Out Radio Network at gmail.com. It's on the ticker down below. Let us know that you are going to be joining us and get your tickets very soon. Super Chat is open. Spaced Out Radio Store is open on our website. And it is that time of the night where I say, horns up. Let's rock. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. You can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. It is a power show of woo tonight, as it is about the who, what, where, when, why, and how, as we take a look back at the month that was March at the SOR Roundtable. We have a power group for you tonight. We have legendary author and researcher Jim Goodall from Discover Sasquatch. We have Chris Reinhardt. Little Timmy Senor, the Timbit, is here from the UFO Report. Katie Page, MUFON out of Colorado, a researcher, author is here, and Nicole Sasquatch, researcher and author as well. And we're going to kick things off in the UFO world tonight because this was a strange one, a strange month of politics, of debate, of UFO Twitter going absolutely nut bar over everything. And this strange article on Medium from the head of the Arrow program, Sean Kirkpatrick, and Avi Loeb, the Harvard professor and astrophysicist and leader of the Galileo Project. Nicole Sasquatch, we're going to start with you on this one tonight, because one of the big things that I had to laugh at regarding this entire article, the fact that they were talking about this mothership that has been touring around our solar system and maybe dropping off these little drones that have been flying around and maybe coming down to Earth and looking like little ticky-tackies and doing all their sciencey things that aliens do. But then I started thinking, and I actually called you about it, if you remember this. I said, all these hundreds of thousands of people, these experiencers out there who've talked about this Galactic Federation mothership, where all the aliens are gathered waiting for humanity to smarten up, grow up, and come to the party. And this sounds identical to what Loeb and Kirkpatrick were writing about. What's your thoughts on this, Nicole?
Well, let's start by saying they are speculating, they are theorizing. This is interesting that they're even taking it or spinning it in this route, I think. But I think this harkens back to some pop culture that's always interwoven within ufology. Like you were saying, we've heard this mothership scenario before. But the best of these scenarios are kind of hooked into our known sciences. And I think we do try to project how we would maybe explore the universe. And so this idea of a mothership sending probes isn't really that far out there, I don't think. So maybe to the rest of the world, it's a big shock just because we're talking motherships and it sounds like a bad movie, but par for the course. Welcome to the club.
No, and I understand that, Nicole, and Tim Senor. I've talked about this, and we talked about it on the UFO report as well. For me, it's the irony of them talking about this potential mothership, and then Nicole getting into what all of these strangers who've never met talking about this galactic federation that's allegedly out there, like when you see the Star Wars Federation of all the aliens built together, and this is what a lot of experiencers have claimed to have been invited to and committed to have seen. And yet, I don't know. Like, to me, when you talk mothership that's allegedly or maybe hanging around, and then you have and you're coming from a side that is literally castigated the experiencers way off to the left. Like, go hide behind the tree outside. We don't need you in the house playing poker with the big boys. Okay. And you have all these people, once again, who claim that they have been told about what goes on in this mothership, that it's all about peace, love, and light, and getting, waiting for humanity to smarten on up. I mean, to me, it's just ironic. I don't know why. Maybe I'm dwelling on it a little too much. Smack me if you have to. But I just find it interesting.
I find it interesting too. I do think they kind of have a skewed version of what they think ufology is and the sort of extraterrestrial life they're looking for. So I think Avi has come out and said before that he doesn't think alien life is here. He leans more towards the out there, and that this might be technology coming here. So again, we've heard this. I mean, I remember I was at a lecture 2 years ago, and one of the main speakers was talking about a supposed mothership that's out by Jupiter. So, I mean, I think as our technology in space advances and the possibility of seeing further out becomes a reality, then we might have some answers. But for now, I think it's the same. Like you said, this all comes down to experiencers have been saying this for probably 80 years.
Tim Senor from the UFO report, you and I have debated and discussed this over the last couple of weeks. Just your thoughts on this becoming a big story. What was big about it for you?
Well, hi, by the way, it's great to see everyone. Thanks everyone for being here with us. And thanks for having me. It's a great question. I think it's important to consider perhaps the other side of the coin here and look at the source and maybe why they're playing both sides of the coin when it comes to UFO UAP. It's really tough because some people may consider a story like this coming with the dandelion theory. I think a lot of people feel like it's discrediting the source. And, if they're coming looking for data, how can they say in the same breath that there's a mothership orbiting potentially outside our Earth's atmosphere? And so I think it's important to look at both sides. Why is this topic coming out now? I believe originally it was a conceptual paper that he wrote through Medium, which is where he writes a lot of papers that is full of conjecture and stuff like that. But I think that he's seeding it from his idea that Oumuamua perhaps was part of this seeding and part of that whole concept. So it aligns with his big picture project, if you will.
I agree. And Avi Loeb from Harvard likes to think big. and the bigger the better. And he's not afraid of talking about aliens and everything. Katie Page, we're going to bring you in here to talk about this. This article, whether you read it or not, and the majority of our audience will not have read it, but it's just interesting to see the players. The head of Aero teams up with the head of the astrophysics department in Harvard University at Avi Loeb. What's your thoughts as a researcher looking at them tag teaming this potential mothership?
Well, first of all, hello to everybody, and thank you for having me here, Dave, and hello to everybody. It's good to see all of you. Sorry I won't make it to Vegas. My son's graduating high school, and I wouldn't miss that for the world, but I'm going to be there with you all in spirit. If there's a Galactic Federation mothership sitting up there waiting for Earthlings to get their, together, they're going to be waiting a long time. They're probably up there going, what the heck are these guys doing now? But I think that you're right. I think it's the timing. I mean, the last few months, when it comes to spinning the UFO narrative and how it was all UAP, and then the shooting down these balloons, and then all of a sudden it was unknowns again, and they're using the word UFOs. Seems to me there's a bigger narrative going on here with a lot of these key players, and I'm a little skeptical of what that might be.
Well, what's that skepticism?
That skepticism is this threat narrative, this fear, this kind of taking the power away from experiencers and regular folks like you and I, and having these big dollar people control things and take these reports and tuck them away and give them to these big corporations and agencies and PhDs and physicists to figure out. Not that that's not a good thing. I mean, that has its benefits too. But to me, there's just a lot of these weird things happening all at once.
All right, let's bring in little Jimmy Goodall here, the legendary author and military researcher, Jim Goodall, whose books you can find at any major bookstore. And let's face it, everybody from Lockheed Martin to Boeing to the United States Air Force and the Pentagon has Jim's books in their categories. Jim, explain to us, my friend, what your thoughts are about the way this UFO flap is going between scientists and government officials.
Hey, they, for the last 2 years or so, they've been, talking about false flag events. And, we've gone through one after the other. And I think I think the next thing is going to be a fake alien invasion or landing. I mean, that's what it's leading up to. They're getting everybody all prepared. Oh, there's a mothership up there. Is it L. Ron Hubbard's mothership? Is it Louis Farrakhan's mothership? Or is it Doe's mothership? I don't know. It's somebody's. And they're just cranking up the tension and the anticipation, because when they come up with their false landing. I go back to a book that I read back in the early 70s. It was called Wild Card. And it was you could see Richard Nixon all over it and Henry Kissinger and a lot of the other, players. But it was going to be, the world is in turmoil. We're on the verge of World War III. This is the book. And everybody's everybody's against everybody. And what is the way to bring everybody together on the same plane? And that would be, we've been invaded by an alien creature. And what they did, they actually built their version of a UFO. They used metallurgy that has never been tried before. So there's going to be some elements in it that in the crash site that defies description. And initially, they were only going to release a gas that was going to make people incapacitated for a couple hours. Well, it turns out the thing that they spread around, I don't know why my tongue isn't working today. It usually works really good. But it started dissolving people. And all of a sudden, everybody that was involved in putting this together, they were in a plane crash. They were in a car crash. They died in their sleep. Now they went skydiving. And they didn't pack the parachute right. I mean, it goes on and on and on. Or they fell out of a 40-story building. It's just there's so many parallels to the crazy stuff we've been experiencing in the last couple of years. I think the next one is going to be, we're being invaded. Everybody duck and cover. Everybody stay in their house. Now, we don't want you to go anywhere because the aliens are out there and they're zapping people. And it's going to be like War of the Worlds type of scenario. But it's going to be all fake. It's going to be all fake.
As long as we have you guarding us, we are okay.
Yeah.
We're okay, because we know you'll get that super vet up to about 180 miles an hour on the I-5.
It'll do that, but not with me in it. I've done 140, maybe 145, but 180, no.
Let's bring in Chris Reinhardt from Discover Sasquatch. He's also a UFO type of guy too. Chris, this idea that we see that there could be motherships now hanging around Earth and sending down drones to spy on people. Look, we're used to being spied on, whether it's social media, whether it's phone tapping, whether it's remote viewing. Well, the aliens are now doing it, apparently, according to Avi Loeb from Harvard and Arrow's head, Sean Kirkpatrick. Just your thoughts on it all.
Well, thanks for having me on the panel tonight, first off, and hi to everybody in the panel. Hi, everybody in the chat. I think if a mothership was outside of our solar system and they were trying to scan us and send things, I think they would be able to do it in more force than that with what we're seeing. I mean, we would have people being able to look in regular telescopes and see this mothership just hovering outside the moon, and they would be sending, if they were scanning and trying to get information, there would be more than just these little blimp things that are rolling around, that we could shoot down. From my experience, from what I've seen, if they're going to come, they're going to come full force. I mean, if they're coming, they're coming. They're not going to fool around. They're not going to, we're here. That's what they're going to put an exclamation point. So my opinion is that it's just, it's not true. I don't think there's a mothership hanging out, and I don't know what these little tic tac things are that they're shooting down out of the sky, but I think they're just a distraction for something else, in my opinion.
What's that distraction, in your opinion?
I don't know. I think it could probably be political reasons. I think the world is so messed up. I think just to take your eye off of something else, to take just distraction to something, to that kind of a level. But of course, I don't know. It's just my opinion. But I would say if the aliens were going to come, they're coming full force, and they would come with everything they had, and there would be no ifs, ands, or buts. Because what I seen was the size of a football field over my head, about 300 feet. And I mean, if they're going to come, they're coming. And there's nothing's going to stop them.
Now, have any of you, others of you, seen any sort of mother type ship or had reports about them?
There was one over Sholo, Arizona. Was it in 20? I think it was 2020 or 2021, within the last 2 or 3 years. And Doc Skinner sent me the video of it, and I tried to play with it to see what I can see. Whatever this thing that was going above the trees was over a mile long. I mean, there were lights. There was structure to it. But the one thing that a lot of people are saying, what's going to happen if they invade us? They've been coming here since time began. For all we know, they've been coming here for 200,000 years or more. Maybe maybe we're the aliens and we've been planted here by the other aliens. It's just, if they have the ability to go across the universe or from other universes, they could zap us. They could just press a button and Earth goes poof. They're not here to destroy us. They're not here to enslave us, unless the real names are Visa and MasterCard. I mean, that's the only thing that can. I have no fear whatsoever about an alien invasion and them being against humans. We would have known that a long time ago. And again, I keep going back to my friend Ben Rich, what he said at UCLA. We have the ability to take ET home. This is 1994, I think it was. We have the ability to take ET home, but our government will not allow that information to be made public. And in 1996, just before he passed away, I talked to him at UCLA Medical Center, or USC Medical Center. And he said, Jim, we have things out in the desert. And he wasn't referring to Area 51. That's 50 years beyond what you can comprehend. And if you've seen movies like Star Wars or Star Trek, we've been there, done that, or decided it wasn't worth the effort. I mean, I've said that 1,000 times if I've said it once, but it came from the mouth of Ben R. Rich, the president of the Milwaukee Skunk Works. And he said that multiple times. And then when I asked him, I said, Ben, you want to expand upon that? He said, no. Then the SOB had the nerve to die on me 10 days later. He was dying from esophageal cancer, from breathing the chemicals used in stealth manufacturing. So, but that's my feeling. I don't fear the alien invasion. I would really be excited if one landed on the golf course behind my house. Someone's got to use it. It's been abandoned now for 5 years. So, land on the 16th fairway. I can see it right out of my living room, and I'll come and give you a glass of water if you need it. So,
they probably go out there at 4 a.m. and play golf. They land, everybody sleeping.
Yeah.
And I think we definitely all imagine that Jim lives on a golf course as well, I think.
Right.
Well, I know between my house and the abandoned golf course, it's not even a current golf, it's abandoned. I have a wildlife corridor, and I get deer and bobcats and javelinas and coyotes through there all the time. But the golf course went out of business because their monthly water bill was $47,000 a month.
Oh,
yeah, I live in the desert, so the water has to come from somewhere. So I don't know if they get a lot of bottles of Perrier water and then squirt it on the fairway or whatever.
Let's get to Nicole here because we got about 90 seconds. Now, you've seen a mothership, or you've taken reports?
I've taken reports and people have talked about it. What came to mind for me was when Grant and I were interviewing all the Triangle Craft witnesses. And that was the first time I had ever heard of or taken testimony of a mothership triangle, like one rising to meet a larger triangle craft. So that stuck out to me. But then, yeah, you hear people describe ships the size of cities. And I think that's just amazing. Yeah.
I saw a black triangle back in 2014 where, and I'm sure it's just my imagination when I say this, but my friend and I, when we saw it, we saw the three corners of the lights. We saw it turn onto its axis, and all the lights disappeared when an airliner from Vancouver came over and started flying by. But to me, this was the size of a city.
Right.
This craft. And the way it vanished into the night sky, I'll never forget it because there was no stars there. And then all of a sudden, the next second, there's stars.
Amazing. And it always comes to mind when you're talking about motherships, generation ships come to mind for me. Like, I mean, if we are talking about this nuts and bolts dialogue of something traversing the universe, we've done the math, we've speculated, or we know how long that would take. We don't really speculate. So we think it's possible. It would have to be some form of generation ship. And let's face it, who wants confined space?
All right, we got a great panel on the SOR roundtable tonight. Katie Page, Jim Goodall, Chris Reinhardt, Nicole Sackage, and Tim Seymour. When we return, the experiencers are told on SOR to go away. We don't need you right now. All right, we are clear.
You know what I think about the big motherships? I wonder why, like, we get a lot of reports of those as well, but I'm always shocked that more people don't report them. Like, you would think if it's as big as a city, you would get at least a dozen or more reports, if not hundreds. So I always find that an interesting part of that.
It's a ridicule that they probably don't want. I mean,
it's
UFO. I mean, legitimate UFO sightings are getting more and more mainstream, but for decades, it's you believe in little green men, or you're one of
We're
those.
all that crazy for being here.
Yeah. So
I've often thought maybe it's almost like a mirage effect, to where you can only see it from certain angles, because or maybe it's part of cloaking.
Or maybe only certain people can see it, like Dave. Right? I mean, only certain people are meant to see them.
That's what I agree with you, Katie, on that. I think certain people are meant to see. They choose who can see them and who can't. At least when my experience happened, me and my wife were the only ones that seen it, and there was 6 other people in the parking lot with us that didn't even know we were there. And
you hear that all the time.
And it was the size of a football field. It was huge. And we're pointing and we're saying, look at that. And their guys are taking groceries out of their car, and they didn't even know we were there. And it just boggles me. To this day, Maria just still scratching her head. She can't believe that these people didn't know we were there. And then we followed it, and this thing made a turn into the woods, and it just disappeared. Like Dave's was there, and then it was just poof, gone.
I mean, I have never seen one, and I really, really do want to see one. I've been out by Area 51 and Tonopah Test Range 80 some odd times in the last 45 years. I live in a starlit community. We don't have any street lights here in Oro Valley, and I'm out back with my dog almost every night, and I'm looking up, and I have never ever seen something. Not even close, and it just drives me nuts. Because I would really love to see it. I mean, I can remember I was standing out by the black mailbox there in Tippecanoe Valley, and I'm thinking, okay, if we've been told that you can read minds, so abduct me, come down and abduct me. Let me bring my Nikon with me so I can get some good coverage. But abduct me. And nothing happened, and I don't see anything. I can't hear anyway, but I would love. And in southern Arizona, where I call home, is home to a lot of sightings.
Right. I mean, Arizona does get the most reported sightings through MUFON.
Yeah, we have the clear sky, pretty much. I mean, I'm sure you do in Colorado, but there's a lot of parts of this country. I mean, I remember I took my son to the Boundary Water Canoe area in northern Minnesota. And you want to know what all this, Dad, what's all that? I said, those are stars. Oh, that's the Milky Way. He'd never seen it. I mean, you live in a city, you just, you may see the sun, you may see the moon and some bright stars or planets, but you don't see the beauty of the night sky.
Right.
I do.
Pardon?
Do you, Jim, have a theory on why you can't see them? Have you thought about that? Because I have a friend that's like that too, that wishes to see them and can't.
Well, it was like when I was in the service, I volunteered to go to Vietnam 7 times, and they looked at my request, and they were really trying to find people to go to Vietnam, and they said, no, this guy really wants to go to Vietnam way too much, so we're going to send him to Alaska. So that's where I went.
Oh.
And during Desert Shield and Desert Storm, I volunteered to go to Saudi Arabia for a year to cover it. I'm a historian. And they decided, no, he really wants to go there his enthusiasm to go there is off the scale.
That's what the aliens think too.
So we're not gonna send him. And that just irritates the bejesus out of me.
All right, guys, I'm going to get you to hold on right there because I want to say a big thank you to Forrest Louis ×2, Pam H, Cat Chaser, and Mennonite Abe for your love and support. And don't forget, for those who are going to Las Vegas, Mr. Jimmy Goodall is going to be there. Mr. Timmy Senor is going to be there. I'm going to be there. We want you there. Go to spacedoutradio.network@gmail.com. Get your tickets today because we want to make sure that you are there with us. And unfortunately, Katie can't make it because her son decided to graduate high school that day.
Oh, the nerve.
The nerve. And Nicole's got her graduation or something going on that weekend too. So here we go, everyone. Second half hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We very much appreciate earning your listening ears. I want to remind you that if you missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. It is that time where we bring in the panel once again for the SOR Roundtable. We do it at the end of each month to look back at the month that was. And there was a little bit of controversy, Tim Senor, on Spaced Out Radio a few Fridays ago when we brought on scientist Rich Hoffman, where in the second hour of the show, I asked him about experiencers and I asked him about transparency. And he didn't seem to like this very much, Tim. Basically saying the experiencers need to step out of the way and let the scientists and the government officials do their jobs. So that way we could get a heads up on what's going on. And basically, part two said right now isn't the time for any sort of transparency until we figure out maybe what's going on. I know you were pretty shocked about that.
Yeah, but this is a popular opinion right now amongst government officials and scientists alike. You know, it seems like they're more concerned with the data in hand than the approach on how they collected that data or the source for that matter. And so it's very important to vet all of the sources and all the collaborations that are taking place and all of the evidence that we're looking at equally, right? And so you can't pick and choose data when it comes to this, right? It's not fair to cherry pick information. And that kind of seems like what we're seeing. And the fact of the matter that you hear a statement that there's no transparency and that that's not a priority simply shows the mindset of the people that are working on this topic. It shows that they're really focused on moving whatever that narrative is that they're focused on forward, not so much the collection of the information and actually considering the source and considering its validity and also considering perhaps that it's sensitive to those sources. So yeah, it does seem like the witnesses have been pushed to the wayside and it's more about data right now. But it was just, you know, one of those kind of slaps in the face. I think it comes to the general public hearing that they're really not interested in sourcing information back to you on your own case. A little bit hard to hear, Dave.
Very much hard to hear. Katie Page, you're a part of MUFON and you're hearing about this. What was your thoughts regarding, you know, the fact that there's a number of these scientists out there who are part of groups like Enigma Labs, parts of groups like UAPX or Galileo Project or whoever they may be, even your own upper echelon of MUFON, who really don't care about the public experience or the transparency as long as they're part of the historic story?
Maybe they already have the answers. I mean, maybe they're spinning a narrative. So, I mean, maybe that's why they're not interested, right? So, I mean, I think when it comes to what so many of us experience, not only in ufology, but in the paranormal world too, and the crypto world as well with the Sasquatch, we seem to know maybe this has to do with quantum, like, you know, metaphysical consciousness and all this kind of thing. It runs really deep, right? And maybe they know all this already, and it is all about this narrative. I don't know why they wouldn't be interested in hearing what all the experiencers have to say, because each one of them holds important information that I think they would find valuable. So I don't really understand why they wouldn't want to look at it.
I don't understand either, but I mean, the way Rich Hoffman, and granted, that's only one voice. It's only one voice, Katie, but
right.
The opinion of many scientists is that people in ufology are just getting in the way with the infighting we see on UFO Twitter. There's a lot of backstabbing going on. There's a lot of people spreading a lot of false information regarding it. And it just seems like they've had enough. And, you know, instead of saying who the bad people are and who the bad guys are, it's better to just put everyone in one cluster.
Yeah, that's awful. Yeah, just need to stay away out of the drama. Keep your head down and, you know, do what you do. Don't get involved in any of that stuff.
But it's the drama that keeps me going.
Oh, does it, Jim?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You know, they say the sales job when you're trying to sell something, get a point across. You only become a salesman or woman when the other person says no, or they close their ears. And I've always played outside the lines and outside the box, and I've created a lot of enemies. You know, there's a few of them in this community, which I mean, they're not going to hurt my feelings any, and I really don't care what they think, but it just irritates me sometimes when they say stuff. I mean, I had a guy slamming a Jim Goodall. I said, "Have you ever met him?" You know, I hadn't introduced myself. No, but he's a real SOB and this and that. And I said, would you recognize him if you saw him in person? Well, he's probably a big fat guy who's, you know, just nasty. And I said, let me introduce myself. I'm Jim Goodall. His face just went white. Yeah.
That's funny. I got to try that sometime.
Yeah. Well, I had to think. Another one, I was with John Andrews from Tester. He's the one who got me really into UFOs, and John Lear, which eventually got me to be friends with Bob Lazar. But I was at Little Alien with John. This is in 91 or 92. And we're up at the bar, and our back is to the pool tables. And a group came in. It was Sean Morton and about 10 people. And he's talking about his good friend, Jim Goodall this and Jim Goodall that. He went on for about 10 minutes. And John Andrews looked at me. He said, "Have you ever met this guy?" And I said, "No." Says, have you ever talked to him? I said, "No." I said, "I'm going to fix it." So I got up, I went up to him. I said, "Sean," I said, "you know who I am?" I said, "No, I don't have a clue." I said, "Well, you know, I can introduce myself. I'm Jim Goodall." And I shook his hand, turned around, and walked back to the bar. he just
That's hilarious.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think I'm radioactive to some people, and that's fine. It keeps the neighborhood. Yeah, probably. I'm a good target. I'm a good target.
And gold to others.
Yeah.
Absolutely, Tim. Absolutely. Chris Reinhardt, let's get your opinion on this fact that experiencers, I mean, you have the rare commodity of being not only an experiencer, but a researcher as well in trying to find UFOs, Sasquatch, mainly Dogman, whatever it may be. But for you having that cross section of experiencing and researching, when you hear of scientists that are wanting to push the experiencers away because all they are is loud noise, I mean, is that a proper way to be conducting investigation?
I don't think so at all. They're just trying to push their narrative. They're trying to be the man, you know, the champ, the hold the belt over your head, go woo, Ric Flair. You know, that's what they're trying to do. They're pushing their narrative. Awareness gets spread by the experiencers. If I would rather walk up to somebody on the street that said, "Hey, I was out in the field the other night, and had a little picnic or whatnot," and we look up, and there's something that shot across the sky and had a big stream behind it, red, blue, green, whatever they saw. I would rather listen to that person than say, "Well, there's a like we said earlier, there's a mothership sitting by Jupiter right now. How are we supposed to know that? How is a regular person supposed to know that there's a mothership near Jupiter? But there's this guy and his wife just had an experience in a soccer field having a picnic of this thing they seen shoot across the sky. Now, I would rather talk to them than to a scientist that's telling me that there's this big mothership, because they're just trying to push their narrative. It's in the Sasquatch world. It's in the paranormal world. It's all intertwined. Everybody wants to push their narrative. And you know me, Dave, I want to work with everybody. I want to work with paranormal people. I want UFO. This whole UFO thing's new to me because it came to me. I didn't ask for it. It just showed up at my door one night, and I've been very intrigued with the whole scene. But I'm not. I mean, maybe some of them know what they're talking about. I don't know too many about the UFOlogists or who the big names are or any of that. But I just think they're trying to push their narrative because they want to be the man, and they don't want to hear someone that's had 3 experiences probably knows more than they do about what a UFO is or what they've seen. And just my opinion.
It's a good opinion.
Nicole, we want to bring you in here because you are an experiencer, you are a researcher, you're an author, you're not just a cook anymore. And
crackers.
Hey, don't discount cooks.
Oh, I know. That's an inside joke between us. But Nicole, you are one who, to use a hockey term, you have dropped the gloves many a time to support experiencers and the importance of their role in ufology. And you and I have talked numerous times over the last few years about how we have seen this coming, where the main scientists who are in play here are really trying to stay nuts and bolts rather than adding a little woo as spice onto their UFO burgers. Just your thoughts of overall. I mean, I know you also heard that segment where Rich Hoffman from the SCU and UAPX kind of went off, and we've since learned that he is also advising Enigma Labs as well. I mean, just your thoughts of everything on it.
Well, I think this whole controlled narrative is sort of sculpted, I think, to where they can get maybe a maximum return. They're very interested in these military witnesses who are very credible, and they're observers and they're trained. But those of us that have researched on and on over the years, what you realize is that there's witnesses, but then there's contactees or experiencers. And a lot of times this takes years to unfold, when you see something in the sky, for the reality of it to hit you. And so I think they might be trying to get out ahead of this a little bit. We have heard people come forward from the government that have had their own experiences, like Gary Nolan, like Jim Semivan, possibly Lou Elizondo, and I think it's not given enough credit that experiences often continue. It's not just a one and done. So as more credible people start figuring this out and their experiences continue, I think they're going to be put in an interesting position to where they're either going to have to turn their back on these credible people investigating this, or they're going to have to broaden their scope and take these things into account. So
I mean, they have Curly, Larry, and Moe. They have Lou. They have who, Doorbell, and
Right.
a few of the other people, and that's all you see. Those are the only faces you see. I mean, they do have my friend George Knapp, I think
Well, and that's why it's sculpted, though. I mean, they're very polished and presentable to the rest of the world. Where
no, there's one of them that's not.
I'm just a
But
tinfoil hat, where everybody else is just, a citizen researcher, or you know what I mean.
yeah. I mean,
I have a question for y'all. Where is the safe now? Like I said, I'm new to all this. Where is the safest place for someone who is an experiencer, like you guys are talking? Where is the safest place for them to go to talk to
Move
someone?
on. I know Dave has his upper echelons issues with move on, but we are for the people. We are all volunteers. We don't get paid for anything. And I know so many of the members across the country, and there's so many just great down to earth people within the organization. And I mean, I can speak for the Colorado chapter. They're like family to me, and we really listen to every experiencer that we have, the ERT team. And 99% of our people are that type. So I'm going to vote for MUFON there.
Me too. Yeah. And I came to this in 2019 with my family's experience, and the representatives from MUFON, after they took their time to make sure that my photographs and video were valid and real, they reached out to me and totally hand walked me through my experience, put me in contact with anyone I needed to get in contact with. They fed me back all the data that led them to believe that my photos were real. Although they didn't want me to make that public, they still shared it with me. And they were 100% transparent. They fed me all the emails that were between all of their people that handed my case around. Their attention to detail was incredible. They did things on my case I never would have thought. I can't talk enough good things about MUFON. And that's just me. Now, that was in Washington State and Oregon. Right. But, I worked with the directors immediately. And after my experience there, I always tell people to report there, and New Fork as well. Mm-hmm. Simply because those are two organizations I believe, Davenport is also somebody that is incredibly trustworthy. And the fact of the matter is that if your case is going to get represented by the government, I would hope that it would be MUFON that would represent you there, simply because they've done the footwork. They are still in contact with the contactee or experiencer or whatever. And so that's my personal experience and recommendation. Now, I understand there are things above the directors that may be muddled. That's beyond my pay grade or interest. And so I still support MUFON 100%. Yeah.
You can't have a big organization like MUFON and not have drama happen on and off. I mean, goodness knows there's been drama from time to time. But like I said, the majority of the people are just volunteers doing it because they love it and because they're interested in, and many are experiencers themselves. So,
yeah. And Peter Davenport, is that the correct name for New Fork's director?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
okay, cool.
Yes.
I fell into.
Oh, go ahead.
I fell into MUFON by accident. I've always been interested in things that go bump in the night, spooky airplanes, UFOs, everything. But I wasn't part of any organization, nor did I have a community like Spaced Out Radio to listen to watch, to participate in. And it was March of 2019. They had a MUFON function, whatever it is, in Phoenix. And my friend of about 25 years, Michael Schrant, was going to be there. And that's the only reason I went there. And I went there, and everybody was in watching Doorbell's thing on Lazar. So I just walked into the vendor's room, and there was Doc Skinner. I introduced myself, and he said, "I didn't see your name on the program." I said, "I didn't know it was coming until this morning. Why would my name be on the program?" I had about 5 or 6 people ask me that thing within about 5 minutes of each other. I had about 10 people ask me that. I said, "Well, I didn't know anybody knew who I was," and that's what cracked me up. I said, Hey, I'm just me. How come you know me? Yes. I mean, I like spooky airplanes, and I've been doing that most of my life. But like I say, I'm very, very new to MUFON. I've heard about it forever. I think my friend John Andrews, when he lived in San Diego, also when he was lived in Rockford, Illinois, was very involved in it back in the 50s and 60s. And I mean, I always knew that we weren't alone. And even when I was up at Kit Peak National Observatories, they basically told us, just before I quit, they said, for every star in the universe, there's 1.5 planets. And out of that incredible number, I mean, just think about the number. I mean, you couldn't even fill this room with the decimal points. I mean, it's that big for the commas. And I don't know. I find this community welcoming. I really, really enjoy the people in it. And I'm, even though I just became part of it within the last couple of years, I feel welcomed, and I really adore all but one or two of you out there. I mean, I talk about the entire community.
Well, but it's not all.
I won't take it personally.
That is all. We've got about three minutes to go before we got to go to break here, and I'm going to continue on the experiencer side when we return from the break, because I think it is important to go over the experiencers regarding their own situations and the mental effects that they have, from PTSD to everything. But I don't have an issue with MUFON. I wish Katie would stop saying that. I don't have an issue.
Sorry.
And I do have an issue with the board of directors being so out of touch with their state directors and their boots on the ground investigators. MUFON does a great job with what they do. It's too bad that the people who are running the organization have zero care for the people who are actually doing the work. And I will say that on the record. And I know Katie will keep quiet on that.
I'm just, we can all use a little better communication.
It's like Cool Hand Luke. What we have here is a failure to communicate.
But
there you go.
Another quick couple groups. I agree with New Fork and Peter Davenport. But I mean, Peter's about 170 years old, so we don't know how much longer that one's going to continue. And the other one would be Opus. Opus is a great group as well. And they do not release any information to anybody. They use it for their own scientific study. And there's nobody bought into that program, and it just kind of goes from there. Nicole.
I was going to mention what's kind of the new one. What was it called? UAP MD? We were talking about it a few weeks ago. It kind of formed
Ted Rowe?
where...
Is it Ted Rowe's new one?
Yeah. Okay. You guys were talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I just really wanted to quickly just say, talking about transparency and reports going out to people. I don't know if many of you know, but I was the administrator for 4 years for MUFON's Mars project, which is all their old paper reports, over 10,000 reports. They were supposed to be available to the public so people can research, and never went out there. It was this big thing. I just want to say that Bob Spearing and Debbie Ziegelmeyer, we're revamping the Mars program into Project Aquarius, and we're working with Klaus Svahn out of Sweden and getting other big repositories, and we are going to make this available to the public. Finally, we're working on this. So all that non-transparency, it's coming. I'm really excited about that. It's a long time that needs to be happening.
Get into transparency. We're going to get into transparency, and we are going to get into more experiencers in the next half hour as we kick off hour number 2 of the roundtable. So far, we have an excellent panel of people here tonight on Spaced Out Radio. From Discover Sasquatch, we have Chris Reinhardt, legendary author and researcher Jim Goodall. We call him Little Jimmy Goodall around here. And from MUFON, Colorado, Katie Page, author, experiencer, researcher, experiencer Nicole Sasquatch. And from the UFO Report, we have little Timmy Senor, our resident Timbit, hanging on out. And experiencers, Enigma, and more in hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio. Sometimes you just can't make things up, and that's where we're going next on the Mighty SOR. All right, we're clear.
Cheers, Nicole.
Yeah, I'm gonna go grab
Cheers down there. Hey, Nicole.
Water. Yeah,
Nicole up here. Cheers.
Yeah.
There we go. Dave, Chris, Tim. Jim left. That's funny.
Just disappeared. Did you see
Jim
that?
missed out.
He went to another dimension. Did you see him go right through there?
Mm-hmm.
Jim will do that.
He walks on water, literally. He went right down into the water.
Is the Jesus of the Black Ops projects.
We're not supposed to say
Oh,
different
my God.
dimension anymore, right? We're supposed to say he came from outside of our space-time.
No.
There's a lot of new research going down about space-time right now.
Again,
Woo!
not dimensional. That's old lingo.
Look what I got.
Cole is on top of it. Oh, my book. That is so awesome. Thanks, Chris. Did I sign it for you? If not, I'll have to sign it for you.
No, you
great.
signed
Okay. Oh, yeah, I did. I sent it to you. That's right.
Have you had anything happen at your place with the Sasquatch yet, or no?
Well, I just spent a week filming, and I can't say with who or what, all those non-disclosure things, but I can tell you that it was a fantastic week, and so many things happened. It'll be really interesting how they edit it down, because literally it was a full week of filming, many, 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 many hours per day. It'll be interesting to see what they get down to 44 minutes, for the episode. But it was fantastic, and I made a lot of new connections with old-time ranchers and things like that. And actually, one of the best Sasquatch pictures I've ever seen in my life. Matter of fact, I told the guy they were out there hunting elk, and so you can see the elk for reference of size to this creature out there in Elbert County. And I'm like, why aren't you guys making a lot of money on this photograph? Because it's phenomenal. And they hardly wanted to show it to me. So I thought that was kind of interesting, and it just doesn't look fake to me at all. So I can't wait to go back and interview these people. So many good connections were made. So many great things happened, and I can't wait for this summer, because we're going to go down there and, do some scientific experiments and things. So a lot of great, exciting things coming for sure. I just can't talk about it yet. Yeah.
Last year in Las Vegas at our gathering, I can't remember who it was, but it was FLIR imagery out of a military FLIR system on a helicopter, and they were chasing a Sasquatch.
Oh, that's awesome. I often wondered about that. Do you hear that very often?
That was, he said, I can let you see it, but I can't share it because it's off a classified system.
Ah, interesting.
I said, well, then why did you show it to me? I was delighted he did, but this thing is walking the exact same way it is in the early film,
The
8mm.
Patty.
Patty.
Yeah, it was the same gait a whole bit, and it stepped over a clearing that's about 25 feet. The person who's telling me about it says, we know the area. Made one step over this thing, and it was like 15 to 28 foot, whatever it was. It was huge, but this thing is running, and it's looking up. It knows that the helicopter is chasing him, even though he's under the cover of the trees.
Right.
With FLIR, it's a big back, big, hairy beast that he's running, so they're going to be creating body heat and make him stand out that much more.
Right.
So it was the most. I looked at it, and it was a good 15 or 20 seconds long, and there was no question what it was.
Wow. Yeah. Hey, Chris, I'm curious. When you fly in airplanes, I often wonder that, because you can see down into the trees, right? And I thought about like FLIR and infrared and all that. But do Sasquatch, are they known to hunt or eat elk in particular?
Yeah, they come here. I don't think they're here all the time. I think they're behind the veil with everything else, the paranormal world. But
so they can come in and out of
come
maybe
here, they feed, they hunt, they do everything, they sleep, eat here, everything. And oh yeah, they hunt the elk. I had just got a pictures from one of my buddy, and there was a mountain goat that was killed with two elk legs broken off and laid in cross on the sheep itself. It stayed there for 3 months. Nothing touched the sheep. Nothing touched the elk.
just like cattle mutilations, nothing goes near them.
I mean, no bugs,
No bugs, no nothing.
They came back. They came back after the 4th month, and it was gone. No drag marks, no nothing. Everything was gone. The elk legs, the whole sheep body was gone. I just seen pictures of that the other day. It was just incredible.
Wow, something. I wonder what that's about. Do you think it's like radiation or what? That like mutilations and
I think they live in the aquifer underneath. I think
that too. I learned that that's under the ranch from my childhood. There's aquifers under there, 2 big ones. Same out by Laramie and Cheyenne, Wyoming. I think David Pilates with his new movie, The UFO Connection, was talking about the aquifers out there. And I think you are right. I think there's a connection.
They're underneath my place.
Yeah.
I have a protect here in Connecticut where I go. It's a protected aquifer. You can't even drill there.
We solved it. Game over.
And I never knew.
Okay, guys, we got about 15 seconds. Thank you to Random Guy and the massive super chats. Obi Flat, Christine, Louie ×2, Pam H, Cat Chaser, and Mennonite Abe. And if you're coming to Vegas, and you'll hear from us soon, we're getting it all set up for you. Here we go with hour 2.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for joining us. We very much appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Effable. Effable is your password. Use it wisely, space travelers, as the Clam sets a password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. We continue on tonight with our SOR Roundtable, looking at the month that was in the month of March. We are joined tonight by some incredible people on the panel. We got little Jimmy Goodall, researcher and author extraordinaire from Discover Sasquatch. We have Chris Reinhardt. Tim Senor from the UFO Report is here. Katie Page from MUFON, Colorado, author, researcher, and experiencer. And Nicole Sakich is here. I don't know if we let Random Guy in. Should we let Random Guy in? Yeah, let's let Random Guy in. Random Guy, you got to put your camera on. But let's say hello as we'll continue on experience regarding everything. And the idea behind the experiencers portion of UFOs is quite phenomenal. Okay, this is something that everyday people are seeing. They're experiencing trauma. They're experiencing PTSD regarding what they're saying. Katie, we're going to start with you on this one, if you don't mind. You know, just
I don't mind.
you've had enough time in the field now to understand that this is something about, how can we put it? This is something that is very important to a number of people. However, there is a large chunk of ufology that really isn't buying the stories anymore. They're done with anecdotal stories. Just your thoughts on that.
Well, without the stories and the testimonies from experiencers, how do we gather any data and information? I mean, I just mentioned during the break, and I can't say with what network, but I just got done filming for a week from the ranch of my childhood, which was very much like Skinwalker Ranch in Utah out here in Colorado. A lot of amazing things happened, and I made a lot of connections. But what I learned from that experience is that with experiencers and contactees, it seems to me, and the research that I've been doing for over a decade now and my own personal experiences, that this phenomenon, doesn't matter where you go on this earth, it connects to people individually, right? So without getting their testimony, I don't know what people are learning, what the scientists are gathering. I mean, there's only so much, lights and mission and metamaterial you can look at. It's what's going on here anyway, right?
Very true. Very true. And the idea behind it, Katie, is people are having real experiences, and at least to them, they are very real. It doesn't matter whether you're skeptical, you don't believe it, you're agnostic on the topic or anything. You have to be able to take the story for what they're worth.
Right. And when you hear so many different people speaking, that's where you connect the dots and you go, oh, you saw this weird thing and this person over here saw them and they're almost identical. I mean, and then all of a sudden it's not just one person's experience, it's several people that have similar experiences. And you can argue, yes, they're learning it from popular culture or movies or magazines or whatever, but sometimes you get those outliers that are just kind of, wait a minute, this is too coincidental to be just random, Speaking of random guy, hi random guy. Random. Hello. Anyway, so yeah.
All right, let's move over to Jim Goodall. Jim, I know you have taken the time over the years to talk to many people who are experiencers of black programs, who are experiences of UFO programs and everything. Jim, you just make your thoughts here regarding everything. We'll get you to unmute your microphone there, Jim, first. Oh, there we go. We got it done.
I hadn't muted it, so maybe you did, or maybe you didn't unmute it earlier. So either way, I wish I was an experiencer, but I'm not, and it just drives me nuts. I've interviewed a lot of people who have seen or even chased UFOs, and they're starting to use the acronym now UFOs again in the media. UAPs, that sounds like a maybe penicillin will get rid of that. But no, but it's just Dave. I mean, the best example of someone who I thought the world of. He was an SR-71 pilot. He chased one and left him in the dust. When I've asked some people who were at Kadeen at the same time he was, and they didn't have any comment. Either they didn't know or they weren't going to tell me one way or the other. But when you can outrun in 1972 or 1973, when you can outrun a 2,200 mile an hour airplane and leave them in the dust, you were chasing something. And Dave eventually became facility manager at Area 51. And he didn't say anything for about a year, but he knew almost everybody there when he arrived, because when you're in the black program community and the spooky airplane community, it's all the same faces, from your entire career in that marketplace or that area of interest. But he said he waited about a year, and then he was at the club after one evening with a bunch of guys. They worked for Lockheed and Northrop and Boeing. He said, "You guys have been here for 10 or 12 years. Did we ever?" And it's 1979, 1980. Said, "Did we ever build or flight test a craft here that can outrun an SR-71?" He said, "Boy, don't you wish." I mean, it hadn't been flight tested or flown out of Area 51. So where in the heck did it come from? And Dave said I said, how about underground facilities? He said, we have the ability to drill 36-foot diameter holes in solid granite about a foot an hour on the other side of the Papoose Range in the Nevada test site. But we don't, it says, if there was an underground facility within the confines of Area 51, as the facility manager, I'd have been responsible for it. And I said I was not responsible for any underground facilities at Area 51. But he said, you have Yucca Mountain, not more than 15, 18 miles away, where they multi-billion-dollar long-term storage facility for low-grade radioactive material from power plants and whatever. So that technology exists. But he said, and the other thing, you would have to have a road going in and out, unless it's tunneled, like it's been. John Lear said there are tunnels from the Bellagio to Area 51 to Tonopah to Sandia, and even up to Bayview, Idaho, where the Navy has their own Area 51. But it's I don't know. The technology's there, but I know we need another Bob Lazar to come forward, this time with photos. And I don't know if anybody has the cojones to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, because if you have spent your entire adult life focused on working in a environment where you need a Q clearance, top secret and above, and you do something that irritates the security guy because you've been asking questions, or something, maybe someone interviewed on spaced out radio or something, and you mentioned something. These SOBs, they have their ears open for code words. That the NSA supposedly gathers an awful lot of information every day. It's irritating. I want some, and no one's going to believe UFOs until they're having a live news, broadcast from the Rose Garden, and one lands and all the cameras turn on and the things come down, and then you have Mars attacks. Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen, because if they the aliens that have been visiting us, or their probes that have been visiting us, and the abductions, if they were out to get us, we would have collars around us, and just like on Coneheads, they'll control your speak. So that's the frustrating part of my part. I've been doing this for 50 years, digging up stuff on our government, and UFOs fascinate the heck out of me. My boss in the Air Guard, Major General Wayne Gatlin, chased a UFO over Lake Superior in 1955 and left him in the dust. And I think it was a orb. That's how he described it. And every time the weapons radar would turn on and lock on, the radar would die. They reset the circuit breaker, try it again. It's scanning, locking on. As soon as it locks on, it dies. And they did that 2 or 3 times. General, he was a major general when I knew him. He was a major when he was flying he was on alert there at Duluth Air Force Base. And as he's heading towards Finley, that's the Air Force station that was tracking it, the guy said, hey, it was coming towards us, and we don't see it anymore. And as General Gatling got closer, he said, well, if you go outside and look, it's right above your radar dome, it's geodesic dome. And just as the guys were coming out, this thing went straight up.
Wow. I was going to say, I bet they didn't try and shoot those down.
No. I mean, they tried. They were going. I mean, this is the 1950s. And we were worried about the Red Menace, the Russians, or the Soviet Union.
So no change.
And it's
nothing's changed.
Yeah. And so I asked General Gatlin, I said, okay, this is 1985. I said, let's assume for fact I'm a F4 pilot. And I chase a UFO. I mean, I got close to it. I can just scrub it, the whole bit. What do? He said, when you land, you go through your post-flight debrief. You talk about the airplane, if there's any write-ups on 731 form and whatever. And then you go to the O Club. You get 2 or 3 really, really stiff drinks. You slam them down. Then you go back to your billeting and forget what you saw. Because if you this is 85, mind you, if you were to report, hey, I just chased a UFO, you can just watch your career go into a nosedive. And I said, well, what if you wanted to report it? Who do you go to? We don't have an organization within the Air Force during that time frame. So you go to public affairs. Oh, choice. I mean, I know our PAO. I've known quite a few of them, and I wouldn't trust them with with a box of cereal, let alone keys to the universe. So, yeah. But I really want. I hope. I mean, I just turned 78, and I hope before I leave this planet, I'll have an opportunity to see something, and may even put my hands on it, or they can put their hands on me. I don't care. I really do, and it's. Yeah. I don't think it affects you. Okay, I don't think it affects my objectivity about UFOs. I mean, we're not alone. There are 2 billion Earth-like planets in the universe, in our universe. 2 billion Earth-like planets orbiting a similar-sized brown dwarf star in the inhabitable zone with liquid water. And this is from the National Science Foundation. This is a briefing we were given in 2018, and it was on that. So, I mean, that's how can we be alone?
Very true. Very true. Chris Reinhardt, you have dealt with all sorts of experiencers, from experiencers with UFOs, experiencers with the paranormal, and mainly Sasquatch and other cryptids. I mean, what is the reaction from people that you get? How does their sighting affect them?
I'm actually helping a lady down in Arkansas right now who's suffering from PTSD from having a Sasquatch encounter. She thought for sure that she was going to be taken. She was vacuuming her pool, and she heard a noise to her left. She peeked over, and there was a Sasquatch there, and she said he was groomed. His hair was brushed. He had all hair over in front of his face. And she had some kind of telepathy come to her and say, do not look at him, turn your head. And she turned her head, and then she heard these grunts. She heard this, whoo, ah, like that. And then when she came back around, she looked, and that Sasquatch was gone. But she thought for sure that he was there to take her. She doesn't go out of her house. She was a hunter. She doesn't hunt anymore. She doesn't leave her house ever without her husband. When her husband's around, she'll leave the house. So PTSD is real. And when they suffer from this, they tell people about it, but it's locked in their heads. It's locked. I think, my opinion on all this, I think it's all linked together. But I think when you have a UFO encounter, or you have a Sasquatch encounter, or you have a paranormal encounter, you are stepping into their plane of field, into their world. You are no longer on Earth. You're on Earth, but you are in their realm, their dimension. You're in somewhere else to where you can experience them. And then once they are outside that zone and they're gone, you are back to where you were before that. That's just how I feel. I mean, like with the experience I had here with UFO, we're the only ones that seen it, and there was people here. We were in the middle of the swamp. We were tracking a Sasquatch. We followed its steps. We found a trackway. But as soon as we got to this area, it was 95 degrees. We were in a swamp. We were getting eaten alive by bugs. Just the worst day imaginable. We got to this place where we found the 4 prints, and the guy that was with me, he goes, we're not in the same forest anymore. There's no more heat. There's no more bugs. There's no more birds. It's silent. It's peaceful. here are this trackway. So to me, I think you have to experience these paranormal or the cryptids or the UFOs. I think you have to step into that zone. I mean, like when the fighter planes encounter those UFOs that blow them out of the water. I mean, they're in their zone. They can talk on the radio, they can say everything, but there's no way they're going to keep up with them. And these things are going to go and they're going to disappear, and they're going to be gone. And to an airplane pilot that sees that can, I don't know how fast fighter jets go, but to see something that can take a fighter jet and blow it away going backwards and against the wind, I mean, they got to be double thinking they're what they just saw too. You know, I mean, it's got to affect them also. So PTSD is a real thing with everything, and I think it's because we step into their world, and that's how we experience these things. I don't think we would just experience them on like a regular, like a Walmart day, like if we were going to Walmart. I don't think a whole crowd of people are going to experience a Sasquatch walking across the Walmart parking lot or a UFO. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the human eye can only see a certain range of the light, the light frequencies. We can only see a small part of that. What is it possible that a Sasquatch can actually be physically outside of that visual range and still be? I mean, can you feel them breathing on you, but you can't see them? And the only time that they're visible is when they're relaxed or when they want to scare the Jesus out of somebody.
I believe, yeah, you're exactly right. I believe they'll show to you when they want to show to you. My first experience was one that huffed on the side of my face through a tent. I shook for about 20 minutes. And
yeah, you had to go change your shorts.
Oh no, yeah. Well, actually, I had to go find a tree.
Oh, okay.
So,
oh, that would be spooky.
But
it'd be exciting, but it'd be spooky.
But I think it just happens. It just happens when it happens. I mean, we can go and look for it. I had a guy that used to go investigating with us all the time, and he wanted to see that Sasquatch. He wanted to find this, and he never could have that interaction. Where other people have gone with me now that don't go looking for it, and they've seen 3 of them, and it's weird how it works. And that's just, again, this is just my opinion. I'm just a grandfather who collects baseball cards. You know what I mean? I didn't ask this all to happen. It just came upon me, and I'm hook, line, and sinker. I've seen 2 crafts now. Maria and my wife and myself have seen 2 crafts, one at 5:00 in the afternoon, and this last one was when we went out to vote. It was right over the house. So it's just
Yankees.
Yankees.
So if that
my cousin was the general manager of the Yankees.
Well,
yeah, we don't take well to the non-Yankee fans around here.
From the mouth of a Canadian.
Yeah.
Right.
So I don't know if that answered the question that you asked, or I went off.
No, I think you answered it perfectly regarding that. Now, let's bring in Random Guy. We got about a minute and a bit here left. And Random Guy, you are not an experiencer, at least not one that you like to admit to, and coming from a more pragmatic standpoint, do you understand or do you feel that the experiencers, when it comes to UFOs, are being kind of pushed away by all of these groups that want to tag team onto the government?
Yeah, I feel like, honestly, that everybody has their motivations. We talked about this the other night after hours. So depending on what side, what group you're in, you got different motivation. Most of it comes down to 2 things. It's either ego or money. And as long as the experiencers play along with the story you're trying to tell that gets you the financing or gets you the clout that you're looking to get, then they can play along with your group. Like I said, the worst thing that's ever happened to the ufology, from what I see, is the faction, the tribalism, and the factions that are going on. Because everybody's playing the same game of, and I don't mean game like it's funny or silly, but like the mode of trying to get disclosure, the mode of trying to find truth is pretty much the same between everybody. The difference is who are your friends and who are mine. And I feel like some experiencers, we all have our own opinions. As a skeptical person, my threshold for believing somebody is way higher than what most of you is. And that's fine. Like, we all have our own rights to believe what we do.
Random Guy, thank you for rounding out that hour. We got Random Guy, Nicole Sackage, Little Timmy Senor, Uncle Jimbo, Jim Goodall, Katie Page, and Chris Reinhardt. We continue the roundtable talking about Enigma Labs next. All right, we are clear, everybody.
Ta-da.
I'm sorry.
Cheers time.
Can I rip off some cuss words real quick? No, I'm just kidding.
No.
I was about to get my Cubbies hat. I was born into the Cubbies dynasty. My dad was a Cubbies fan. Go Cubbies! Right, Nicole?
You want me to sing the song? I'll sing the song.
Oh, I'll sing it with you. I'll sing it with you.
I hear that song in my head every spring, and
I love it. I was so sad to see Rizzo go. No, not Rizzo.
It'll be okay.
I'm a big Contreras fan, so I'm all right. He's still there.
They have a lot of spring training going on around here. At least I think it's over with now. But
I know they spring train in Arizona, don't they?
Yeah,
right. The UFO Congress was right by the Cubs spring training right there in Arizona. So I kept walking over there just to get the big Cubs sign. It was awesome.
So many reasons to move out west.
It's too hot in Arizona. No offense, Jim. You stay inside during the summer, I guess.
Has anybody else experienced the Sasquatch other than Dave?
I've had a little unusual encounter up in Bailey, really close to Jim Mars. He has the Sasquatch outpost right there. So we do have a lot of Bigfoot Sasquatch sightings out in Bailey, Colorado, which is up in the Rocky Mountains. I had a cabin right up there, maybe 6 miles from where the museum is. And it was dusk, and we had just put in it was at least 10 feet. It was a water feature. We had, the lights, and I had my swing chair in the forest, and, it was really relaxing, the sound of the waterfall. And I was waiting for my husband at the time and my daughter to come up there. I was by myself, and I heard like a really big tree break or tree knock in the front. It made me a little uneasy, but I didn't think Sasquatch or Bigfoot. But then I smelled the worst smell I've ever smelled in my life. It smelled really like a rotting dead body or something. And it scared me. And I went in, I waited for them to get there. When they got back, we went out to investigate, and that smell was like traveling. We went in for the night. The next morning, I went out to try to find footprints or hair or any evidence, but the ground was too dry. Didn't find any hair samples or anything like that. But my theory was that maybe he was curious about this new water feature because it's really dry out there. I don't know. But so that was my encounter, if you want to call it that. I didn't actually see one, but I heard one and I smelt one.
That sounds like you had an encounter with Random Guy.
What do you think about the use of eDNA in the process of discovering Bigfoot?
I think the government has enough DNA, and that new eDNA. DNA is not going to do it. The only thing that's going to do it is a body. I hate to say it, but just like you guys are talking about the UFO, it's going to take a UFO to land in someone's backyard, and they're gonna, and they're gonna walk out just like the movie there. What's the name?
Harry and the Hendersons. Yeah.
Harry on the top of the station wagon.
Yeah,
I love it. I have a quick question for Chris that I was dying to ask him during the show, but I didn't want to interrupt. What do you think? And I know David Pilates would never tie the missing people into Sasquatch, but do you think they're connected, some of these missing people?
I think it's the giants. I think giants roam the forest. I've been doing a lot of research on that as of late and talking to some old timers, and they're finding 26-inch prints with 13-foot gates in Alaska. and that's a pretty big step. 13 feet gate.
Yeah. They say, sorry to cut you off there. They say northern British Columbia into Alaska and the Yukon and Northwest Territories. The Sasquatch up there are getting up to like 20 feet tall. Like it's nuts.
Right.
Yeah.
What?
So
Yikes.
I think there's a difference between. I don't think the Sasquatch. I think it's the giants, the red-haired giants. We call them. I think even the Native Americans call them the people eaters. The ones that, you got the Lovelock Cave incident. They found 12-foot giants in there, and
So the stories from our childhood are true.
I also think it has a lot to do with radio frequency, microwaves. When we go out, we bring a meter with us that measures radio frequency, and we are getting topped out. Like, you're not supposed to get these readings. A broadband meter. We had a satellite tech reach out to us and say, what you guys are experiencing, if you were in a Faraday box, you would be cooked for dinner. And he says, you shouldn't be
Guys, I got to cut that off. I apologize. And thank you to our super chatters. Here comes the next half hour. We passed the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for joining us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears. I want to remind you that if you miss portions of this show or others, we got our free archives on YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play. You name it, we're there. All over the podcast network. Go get it for free because we don't want you to pay for this. No. This is free stuff right here. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. All right, we're going to continue on with the roundtable tonight, looking back at the month that was in the world of the weird and strange. And we are joined tonight by researcher and author Nicole Sasquatch, author and researcher Jim Goodall. From the UFO Report, little Timmy Senor, our resident Timbit. We got Random Guy here. We got Chris Reinhardt from Discover Sasquatch and Katie Page from MUFON, Colorado. And we're going to get into a little bit of an Enigma story here. As many of you know, over the last couple of months, we've been trying to figure out what this Enigma Labs is all about. Are they good for ufology? Are they something that we should be wary of, considering that very few people have even admitted their association with this group that is funded by millions by the gentleman named Peter Thiel, who is one of the co-founders of a company called PayPal and allegedly has government contracts in the defense world as well. So Enigma had me scratching my head again because their Twitter department, no offense to their PR, really needs some work. Okay, it started off a few weeks ago when they really came out. Tim and I broke it on down where they sent out a tweet basically saying that we're not interested in government contracts, but we're really interested in working with Aero and NASA. Well, that would be a government contract. Then, just yesterday, they put out this amazing tweet. It's amazing. Have you seen anything unidentified lately? Share it. Submit.enigmalabs.io. But here's the problem with a lot of people want to respond on Twitter. And Random Guy, I know you're a tech guy, so I know you're going to have a laugh with this one because you've looked into Enigma Labs. So we'll start with you. I respond to the tweet. I said, isn't it ironic that they asked this question, but Alejandro, aka Alejandro Rojas, their PR person, has the Twitter feed locked down to only people Enigma follows can reply to their questions. Kind of hard to get public answers if they can't respond.
Yeah.
Your thoughts They're a random guy.
Well, we discussed this when we first discovered this a few weeks ago, right? So basically what they're doing in social media is the equivalent of if you're dating a girl and she's hiding the read receipts on the text. So you're controlling who can interact with and if you accept their interaction or not. That's the least transparent thing you could possibly do. You might as well just post on Instagram and turn off comedy. Why have a Twitter? So most of you guys are on Twitter. Or if you're not, you're familiar with it. And what Twitter is, the entire point, it's a soundboard for anybody and everybody that has an idea, disagree, agree, share it. Feedback. That's the point of Twitter. To make a Twitter and to completely deny or shut off any population or group that doesn't agree with you, it doesn't make sense. At that point, as soon as it's kind of like I don't block anybody. A lot of people block me for obvious reasons, but I don't block anybody because I want the feedback. If I'm being, if I'm out of line, I want to be able to have a chance to defend myself, correct it, make it right, whatever, or change my thoughts maybe. When you just say, here's how it's going to be, and we don't want any feedback, you're creating an echo chamber, which especially in something like ufology, the last thing you want is an echo chamber. You need to have no context of input from everybody, in my opinion. Am I wrong?
No, you're
Well,
right.
here's the funny part about this, and I think you're right. Enigma Labs, who only follows 27 people, only allows those 27 people can respond to any of their tweets.
Exactly.
Okay. They include Ryan Graves, fighter pilot, Ben Hansen, former FBI, the man who runs the program, Alejandro Rojas, Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, and a number of their own employees, Quanta Magazine, Physics in History, Physics Today, Science Magazine, AIAA. These are magazines don't respond.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? They don't respond.
Yeah, it's like me generating. So, like, I'll give you an example, a comparison. It's like you going on Instagram as a new company or a new person, a new influencer, and you start following The Rock just so all his followers will see that you're there, right? Because he's a huge influential figure, but he doesn't even know you exist. Like, we don't know what the association there is. So, like, just because somebody follows somebody or if there's no interaction there, there's no transparency of maybe they're just a fan, maybe they're just trying to grab that search engine, the SEO from it, like whatever. Because there's, lots of things with social media or metadata. So who you follow matters because it all travels back to you, especially if you're trying to make a brand. So if you associate with other brands, other people, influential figures, whether government, famous, otherwise, it helps your SEO for the context of your niche. And that's the tech side of it. But it doesn't necessarily add up to an endorsement, right? Or any tangible interactions that we're able to see.
Absolutely. Nicole Sackage, let's get to you on this. You're on mute, my dear. You muted yourself.
What was the original tweet or the second tweet?
The second tweet.
Yeah.
Okay. The second tweet read like this. Pardon me. My Twitter is all of a sudden going haywire. Have you seen anything unidentified lately? Share it. Submit.enigmalabs.io.
Right. And that's the hitch right there is they're pushing their website or they're pushing their app. And I know they still have a lot of features that aren't up and running yet. And I think they're in a testing phase of a sort of community feedback chat with their they have experts that are supposed to be available online, but it's all anonymous. So you can talk to an anonymous expert who's supposed to be available. But also with the reporting, this is what gets me as well. Because we can report to as many places as we want. We named a few earlier. So we can report to Enigma as well. But they still don't do any field work investigating. I think goal is to eventually be able to cross-reference data that they have from the government, whether it's satellite data or other sensory capabilities. So that's intriguing, but it's still not anything for the experiencer per se. So I think it's a plug for their app and their website. So
Of course it is. I guess what I'm saying is, you know, if you want to go on social media and put a tweet out like that, you want the public to respond. You want them to come out and hey, they'll get your website. It gives you a chance to respond to your public who's paying attention, and people always like a response. Tim Senor, I mean, you've looked into this, and I'd like to get your thoughts on this.
Yeah, absolutely. What they're doing is attempting to use social media in order to facilitate funneling everybody directly towards Enigma's website. And then once you get there, you're very much encouraged by the appearance of it. It looks so clean and professional and fun to interact with. You're encouraged to go ahead and report there because, I mean, it does look, pretty legit. And although you may not have any access to your report once you've placed it, they're kind of counting on the fact that maybe you'll just go ahead and report anyways. And also consider the fact that this is incredibly not transparent should scream out the source of the interest and who's investing in this. This project is obviously something that has no interest in the witness. That is very much how we've seen scientists and government express their opinion towards witnesses. And so I think you can absolutely validate the fact that this is probably one of those kind of organizations. And if you're okay sharing your data that way, great. But I think those are probably the signals that would let you know how you're going to be evaluated and treated. Whether you're just a witness to something up in the sky, or you're an actual experiencer of an event and an interaction, or if it's an actual abduction or some kind of event like that. They want to know about it. And they want to know details. And then they use an AI algorithm to evaluate your experience, and they assign it a number. And once it's given that number, obviously it drops into a category. And so you can see the way that they're thinking. If there's no human being actually taking care of your case, it's potentially all just a data that an AI algorithm will take a look at.
And AI is spooky, and it's going to be just like Terminator if it isn't. And there's action in Congress and worldwide that, hey, let's just stop right here.
6-month break.
Yeah, no, how about a 6-year break? I mean, things are just. Yeah, I asked a AI specialist years ago. I said, well, they'll always need us. They said no, because once they have the power to reason and to think. They can build with your metal printing. They can make their own robots and their own electronics and assemble them and have them go out. Now we're talking about iRobot.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. In fact, the NRO, National Reconnaissance Office, recently developed top secret AI to detect UAP. And as recently as May of 2021, this AI was used to spot actual Tic Tac object that, according to a series of their documents obtained through a Freedom of Information Act, reports what appears to be a genuinely unidentified object, appearing to look like the famed Tic Tac. And so I find that incredibly interesting. And that just goes to show that in some forms, AI could be incredibly useful on this topic, but it can also be used to potentially weed out the real from the fake. I mean, we definitely have to be aware of what we're getting ourselves into. But I find it very interesting that now we're starting to see them develop programs that use AI technology to detect things like this in our skies.
Absolutely. And Katie, let's get with you here on this topic, because I know that for you, being a part of MUFON, you're watching kind of what every other group is doing out there. Do you find it a little ironic that we see Enigma Labs really not pushing the public persona that they're a scientific group, and yet they're asking for reports from the public?
Well, what I'd like to say, and I need to be careful here because, Alejandro and I have friends within Enigma, and I feel like I think there's room for what they're doing, and what Tim was talking about, this AI and running this data and taking a different approach than perhaps MUFON does. So what I would like to see personally is, some transparency and working together. Like, I would hate for Enigma to like kind of hoard these reports and MUFON to hoard these reports and all these different organizations doing that and not communicate and work with one another. I know I'm asking for a lot here, and it'll probably never happen because there's money involved and egos and everything else. But I do think there's room in this vast universe for different ways of going about collecting information. So
that is the most politically correct answer.
And
I'm going to be honest with you. I'm actually disappointed. I'm disappointed. I am, because this is where I get tongue-tied. I've never heard you do that before. You believe the politically correct there. Oh,
that means I'm a good friend.
where is the sanity? Where is the sanity in this? Look, I understand.
I'll get a little controversial if you want with Enigma.
Let's do it.
I mean, that controversy kind of all revolves around this. I guess who's considered somewhat nefarious, and that's Peter Thiel, and he's allegedly their main funder, which I think the other alleged funder, or I guess owner, is Alice Lloyd George. And back to Peter Thiel, though, or Thiel, I forget how you pronounce his name. I think what's nefarious about him is that his government contracts in the past have all revolved around data collection, like post 9/11 data collection, whether it's been abroad or in the United States. And his companies or his software that different government agencies used, obviously he profited from that. And so it's almost like, I think the community, well, let me back up. I think why he's controversial is not necessarily his government work, but his political stances that he's made in the public, obviously get half of the population riled up. That's just how politics go these days. But the rumors we've heard is that he gets to keep all the data that Enigma collects.
Yeah, that's not good. I'll say that.
A private individual. So, I mean, I don't know. To me, I think that's what scares the community. It makes them feel like we're being Scooby-Dooed, but we're never going to get to pull off that mask. So.
And I can say this, like MUFON, a few of us, like I just talked about with Mars and Aquarius and getting this data out, there's a big push now to make, because, we've been accused of holding data too, and not really, but at the same time, you can go to like UFO Stalker and you can look at the cases and what the witnesses, you just can't get the personal like information, which is important. We protect our witnesses, address and phone number and all that stuff. But at some point it goes all out to the public, and you can see it now. You can see what people report. So I agree with that. Like, you can't just collect these reports and not be there for the witnesses, and you can't be there, you're not there for the contactees, and you're just hoarding this data. So I agree that is not a good thing.
Right.
Okay, and getting back to when we talked to Rich Hoffman, who is advising Enigma, and I've talked to other people who are advising Enigma Labs. What a tongue twister that was. Okay, they have no interest in sharing their data.
Yeah, it's not good.
They have no interest in anything, and don't let them fool you. Okay, this is a private company that does not have to disclose anything. They do not have to provide transparency to the one group that they cannot stand, which is ufology. Okay, they want the government contracts. They want the government money. They want the spotlight to be on them when all they're doing is nuts and bolts and stealing reports. They say they already have 300,000. No. Where did you get them? Guaranteed you ripped them off MUFON's database, which anybody can. You took them from elsewhere. Where'd you get them
from? They're scrubbing reports. And that is kind of what Tim was bringing up, Tim, about the ratings that they give. If you dig into the parameters that they're setting, that's where it gets so kind of, I don't know, frustrating too. So like if you have a police officer witness and a stay-at-home mom witness, that could get a different rating. If you're a solo witness as compared to, a multiple sighting case, that will score you differently. If they have sensor data that goes along with a sighting, that'll score you differently. So I'm worried about maybe too many cases being thrown out due to these parameters that are being set.
And who's setting the parameters? If you have a bunch of scientists who are labeling all of this as non-woo and nuts and bolts, how are they going to be able to decipher an experiencer who's had a download or seen shapes or binary codes?
I think this is something that MUFON evolved through. When they started out, they didn't have the ERT, and the longer they did it, they saw that there was a need for this and that you had to collect the highest of the high strain along with the nuts and bolts. So I don't know. I just feel like there's a lot of copycatting and rebooting going on. And everybody's acting like this is the first time anything's ever been tried.
Yeah, and consider this for a moment. We know that SCU did a paper on orbs, and they came out with data on how different colors were different colors or different types of plasma that were basically gases burning at different temperatures and different kind of gases and things like that. And then Enigma immediately had that same information on their website, where they've categorized orbs into this explainable mundane category. So now I'm assuming that whenever Enigma takes a orb case, it will just slot it into this potentially mundane category. Whereas we all know, not everything, just because it's a ball of light, will fit into that. They're not all going to be the same. And so they're going to lose valuable data by just categorizing things this way, in my personal opinion.
Yes.
We got about 90 seconds to go here before we go to break. And, the one thing that I try and do is I try and keep an open mind with everything. But when I see what's going on and I start putting things together in my own head, Chris, I am just not seeing where this is going to be benefiting anything to do with the people of ufology. What's your thoughts?
What I don't understand is what is Enigma getting from the government? What kind of contract are they getting for collecting data? I don't understand that whole part. What are they? They collect the data. What is the government paying them for? Reports and that stuff? I don't.
Well, see, that's the irony of it. They say they're not in it for government data or government contracts, yet they're working with NASA. They're working with Arrow. They're working with Galileo Project. They're working with a lot of the SCU members. What it's becoming is one big circle that's tightening up the wagons.
Right.
And
It happens everywhere. It seems like Sasquatch world, paranormal world. All these groups seem the same to me. You know, you got the BFRO and all that, and they stick to what they got, but then you got this other group that sticks to what they got, and
it's a cluster. It's a mess. And when we come back, let's talk a little Tom DeLonge, putting the paranoia back in UAP. Unidentified aerial paranoia from the Blink-182 singer next with a roundtable panel on Spaced Out Radio. All right, we're clear.
Yeah, I got a question for the group here. I'm not an experiencer. I haven't seen a UFO. I haven't been abducted, but I've had visions of things multiple times in my sleep, ending up the event happened, and it's spooky. I remember my brother cut his finger off. I was 200 miles away when it happened. I know exactly when it happened and what finger and how he did it. And I knew that 2 years before it happened. For 7 years, I told my first wife, I have quite a few of them. I collect them. You know? Yeah. For 7 years, I was telling my first wife, I live in Minnesota. I'm going to be in San Francisco during a major earthquake. And I said, yeah. You never stay in San Francisco. You're always in the East Bay with my mom's family. They're all Sicilians. They're all from the East Bay. And I grew up in Los Altos, Mountain View area. So I wouldn't stay in the city. No reason to. Well, I was in the corner of Stockton and Geary for the Loma Prieta earthquake. And my wife, my ex-wife, was my wife then, came to the realization maybe some of my visions are real. And then I had a vision for almost 10 years of a wide-body airliner crashing into both World Trade Centers.
Oh, wow.
It was too outrageous to even think about it. And the day it happened, I was literally dumbfounded and a little bit frightened.
Is that precognition you're talking about?
I don't know what it is. I have a electronic connection ESP wise with a number of people. My old roommate when I worked for the phone company back in the 60s, Don Avery. I could be in one room and he's getting ready to say, hey, let's go to such and such. And I would say, hey, let's go to such and such. Or he'd start a sentence and I would finish it. And it just, and one night I'm laying on the bed, we're getting ready. He's in the living room and he has an ESP book out and he starts identifying symbols. I'm talking 3 dots with 3 squiggly lines and a bottom line. Pretty complex things. I got 19 out of 20. And the only reason I didn't get 20 out of 20, he did one of the shapes 2 times in a row.
Well, I think that's entanglement, Jim. And I think you're tapped into something. Like a lot of experiencers and contactees have this thing of where they can interact with their dreams or lucid dream. I mean, if you look at time, we look at time as linear, but all time exists, past, present, future. It's all out there with every possible event. And so it sounds to me like you're, like Chris said, you're having precognition and you're tapped into something where you're seeing that timeline. And these things are happening. And I know quite a few people experience this from time to time. And I think so many of us experience when we just think about somebody that we haven't thought about in a while, boom, there they are, or they call us, or they send us an email or whatever. So,
I mean, these are almost earth-shaking events. I mean, they aren't. I mean, a major earthquake in the city of San Francisco in the neighborhood, and then the 9/11. I mean, my grandmother used to be able to visualize what my grandfather was doing when he was fishing in Alaska.
I want that skill.
That was the turn of the last century. My grandfather came over from Sicily in 1901 and moved the whole village, 15 fleet, to Pittsburgh, California, on the San Joaquin Sacramento Delta. And Nana was in charge of all the Italian, Sicilian, and Portuguese fishermen from San Francisco to LA. But they would go up to Alaska to be gone for 5 months. And the wives would all call my grandmother. She was the matriarch. Said, Angelina, can you tell me how much money is going to be in Salvatore's pay envelope? She said, well, I'll ask my great aunt tonight in a dream. And she came the next day and he said, he's going to have such and such. And she was always almost right on the button.
Wow.
When my grandfather fell overboard, you fall overboard in the waters of Alaska when you're fishing, you're gone. The water's 39 degrees. You're gonna go hypothermic real fast. Right. He caught his foot in the net. And they were able to pull him back in. Nana woke up in the middle of the night screaming, Papa fell overboard. Papa fell overboard. And all 5 kids are in there. But she writes down the time and the location that he fell in. And that's
Did he survive that?
Yes. Oh, yes.
Oh, good. Thank goodness.
Yeah. And that was
that's like entanglement. I mean, people often have that with their children too.
Yeah.
With people really close to them.
Let's see if we can entangle this. Here, sign my book, Jim.
Oh yeah, I have that very book too.
I will. I will sign it. You bring it to Las Vegas. I'll sign it for you. And Katie, you have a very pretty office or room or wherever that is in your house.
Thank you. I love it.
I like the fireplace, and it looks cozy. It looks very
very
nice.
Cozy, and there's French doors over here, and then a big, huge wall over here of nothing but books and magazines about my favorite topics.
I think Ted's place looks very cozy also. I imagine myself sleeping there without him knowing I'm in the house.
We got 30 seconds.
He's in some weird hippie Harry Potter closet. That's what.
That's exactly it.
Does it? Harry Potter's aunt and uncle keep him under the steps.
It's 100% right. I do all of my work under the stairs.
All right, guys, I'm going to get you to hold on right there because we're going to get going here momentarily.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. Thank you so much for joining us. We very much appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. And what do you got for us tonight, Clam? Where'd it go? Disappeared on me. There it is. Effable. Effable is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets a password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot, reading the news wire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. We continue on tonight with the SOR Roundtable, looking at the month that was, and we are joined by another great panel tonight. We have Nicole Sasquatch, researcher and author, Jim Goodall, author and researcher, Tim Senor from the UFO Report, our main man, Random Guy, Chris Reinhardt from Discover Sasquatch and from MUFON, Colorado, Katie Page. Now, I want to get into Tom DeLonge again because lately he has been stirring up the UFO pod on Twitter and social media, trying to reclaim some knowledge and some voice here from his To the Stars Academy that seems to have, really taken a sidestep over the last couple of years regarding this topic after coming out in 2017 or late 2016, pardon me. And, Jim, let's start with you on this one
All right.
because
I mean, I know one of the original members of To the Stars Academy, Steve Justice. I've known Steve since 1980 when he was with General Dynamics Fort Worth. And I asked him, I said, what happened? He said that, the pandemic and everything else, everything sort of imploded, and the money was drying up, and he just said it was, the idea was a good idea to start with. And I think they lost their direction, but most importantly, they lost most of their funding. They decided to go elsewhere. So, and that was the reason why. But he landed on his feet because he wasn't making any money there. But he was trying to figure out something to do. He ended up to be the director of engineering for Virgin Galactic. So I'm gonna see if I can do a book for them, and don't pay me anything. Just give me a ride to space. I'm gonna try it. I mean, that's my goal.
Well, I think the big thing with Tom DeLonge, and it looks like he has since done his famous tweet erase on this, because Tom is famous for that. He'll put out a tweet, and then either hours or a few days later, once he starts reading the critical replies, that he erases it to hey, he's famous, he's allowed to do that. And the tweet that he put out, and I'm going to paraphrase it here, was basically about, all aliens are bad. We need to be able to guard ourselves from this. If you don't believe me, read Peter Levenda's book. Peter Levenda is an author and a researcher who's really believes the idea that all aliens coming down here are demons, that we need to be able to protect ourselves from these evil entities that are coming down. And Tom even said that when he went on Joe Rogan in 2016, basically saying we have to get nukes up in space. They're afraid of our nuclear weapons, and we could take them out, and so on and so forth. So I sent a reply tweet to Tom. I said, Tom, and he never replies to me because I'm a critical thinker. I said, Tom, didn't you try to buy the free experiencers statistics that says 84% of all ET contact that contactees has been positive and they'd want it again? I said, if it's so negative, what were you going to do with those statistics if Ray Hernandez sold them to you? You know that he would have buried them. He would have buried them, and they would never see the light of day again, Nicole.
I don't know if he would have buried it. I mean, I think he definitely would have put his spin on it. And I think we've seen this time and time again with Tom. He comes out of the gate, he makes wild claims. He says they come from his advisors or his sources or his plus decades worth of research, but he never tells you the title of a book that he's read or an article that he's researched or a subject, in detail. Obviously, he never gives up one of these advisors, but I think this is on a grand stage. We're seeing the polar opposite. I think the other part of that tweet was he was kind of Greer bashing, which, as far as I can remember, they were in the same camp at one point in time until they started having their differences with this good versus evil scenario. So I don't know. I don't like the polarizing opposites in either direction. I think that's exactly what the phenomenon is trying to teach us, that it's a balance. It's not, good or bad. It's there in the middle, which kind of brings me back to the Federation talk we began the night with. If I guess we would need a Federation if there were this balance to be kept. But if it was all bad, it's like Jim said, they would have eaten us or collared us by now or whatever. If it was all good, I think they would have rescued us from ourselves by now. But they choose to kind of keep us in a middle. So
Well said.
thanks.
Yeah.
Well, and I don't understand why To the Stars is taking this threat narrative, evil alien stance. Like, I honestly don't like. Other than the UFOtainment side of it, which is obviously kind of the direction they're going. You know, they're not building the spaceship anymore. They're not bringing an experiencer group together. You know, it's not an academy where you can go study. So now we're stuck with books and movies.
Very true. Random guy, are you available? Let's get to you here
Am
regarding
I available? Yeah, I'm just trying to mind my own business. Still called upon in class, sitting here with my dunce cap on.
Oh, it's a beautiful dunce cap, and it's filled with tinfoil.
There's a
That's
lot
for
of
sure.
haters out there. What can I do for you, Mr. Dave?
Well, let's talk about Tom DeLonge here, because we know he's addicted to the UFO subject. We know that he has tried his best in order to bring this subject to light to his millions of followers on social media, which I do give him credit for. Okay. Yeah. But the idea that he continues to push a threat narrative, a threat that isn't there, or a threat narrative that only seems to be happening in the U.S. when other governments around the world have claimed that there is no threat narrative regarding UFOs in their own skies. I mean, what do you think about this?
Well, two things. What's the number one thing that sells in the world? Negativity. The number two thing that makes people spend money, being afraid. You can get to the bottom of almost every inadequacy, insecurity, fear drive almost every purchase that a human makes outside of necessity or greed. So knowing that and knowing media sells and you're selling something, those are your focuses, right? It doesn't matter if you're on YouTube and you're making thumbnails. I have multiple YouTube channels. Negativity works. Scaring people works. So if you look at some of the stuff like Elizondo and the other guys were saying with some of the threat narrative that came from the Chinese balloon stuff, right? A lot of it was, hey, there's threats out there. And we had discussions about that. Like, there's threats out there, threats, right? Not necessarily ET stuff, but there's threats because fear gets money attached to it. So it's not so far to say, and I don't know the man, but it's not so far to say that he hangs in these circles and he hears threat narratives and understands that gets clicks. I'm not saying that he's lying. I'm not saying he's wrong. I'm simply saying anybody that works in the world of creating something where you want people to pay attention, you have to have a hook to get them to do so. And so even if not consciously, subconsciously, you may embellish fear or negativity or a consequence that may not actually be factual to drive your point home. That's all I'm saying.
And that makes total sense that, fear sells. Fear also creates budgets.
Yes, correct.
Yep. I mean, that's why I think they're really emphasizing this mothership. I do not listen to the broadcast news. They're a bunch of news readers. They aren't journalists. Most of the stuff I read is from Europe and Australia and such. But they're starting a narrative to, people are getting a little bit edgy. There's a mothership out there. What's going to happen? They can just keep cranking up the voltage. And then when they have the pretend alien invasion, however they're going to do it, I mean, according to Bob Lazar, they've been flying the 9 different craft there at S4. And if you believe Ben Rich when he says we have the ability to take ET home, now we have those capabilities. So could it be that a lot of the alien ships that we are seeing, the UFOs, the UAPs, or what the hell you want to call it, are really ours? I mean, I would like to believe it is, but like I mentioned, Steve Justice. Steve Justice had 35 years of the Lockheed Skunk Works. He was the number 3 guy when he retired. And I've asked him. I said, is there anything you guys are working on? I know you can't tell me what it is, but is there anything that'll get me excited? I mean, he's known me for 45, almost 50 years, 40 years. And he said, no, and there's nothing that gets me excited. And he was, like I say, he was a number 3 guy. Now things have changed. He's been retired now 5 or 6 years. And the world has changed, but we're being fed a narrative that put people on edge. It's in the background. It's like a bad tooth. You don't know it's really there until all of a sudden you get in an airplane, you go up in altitude, and all of a sudden this thing blows up on you. I think that's what's going to happen. That's what they want. And it's just, is it real? I don't know. I would like to know. I'd like to put my hands on it, whatever it is. And maybe someday I'll have that opportunity. But right now, I think the narrative is they're just cranking up the voltage. Not a lot so everybody notices, but just a little bit more each week.
Let's go over to Katie Page from MUFON, Colorado. Katie, your thoughts?
Well, I think Nicole, Random Guy, and Jim have very great points. And what I would just like to say about this topic, because you guys covered it all so well, is that it's really important to do what Jim kind of stated and turn off those news networks. I mean, since I moved up here in the mountains, I've done so. I don't pay for, cable anymore. and I'm a different person now. Much happier, as you could tell. And it's important to trust your intuitive side in what your own experience in contactee is telling you. I mean, like you said, the statistics are high. It's upwards of 80% that have positive experiences. So whatever this fear threat narrative is, it's just no good. And it's either for money, power, control, or everybody's just parroting everybody else. I don't know what it is, but trust yourself and your own experiences, and turn that news off. That's all I have to say.
What does your gut tell you?
My gut tells me it's not evil. And like Nicole said so eloquently, there's yin and yang. Not all bad things are bad, right? Some of my worst moments in life, I learned the best lessons from. So you have to have both good and bad. So yeah, right. A lot of those. So it's just silly to put it all in one basket.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely is. But it also goes to show that people in the UFO field are still enamored by star power. Whether it's Stephen Greer, whether it's Tom DeLonge or Lou Elizondo or any of the names that are frequented in vocabulary regarding this. Now, every day you wake up, it's Ryan Graves, the former fighter pilot who saw something on radar, although he didn't see it with his own eyes. And coincidentally, Ryan Graves now has a UFO science group out there that is working along with the government. It just seems, Nicole, that we have all of these groups that are coming out there that are basically building off of star power. And the people who've been doing the work for the last 30, 40, 50 years, whether it's Grant Cameron or Richard Dolan or Lorian Fenton, Melinda Leslie, even though they are still very popular, they've kind of been pushed. Like, this isn't your game here. This isn't your game. We'll take over from here. We're the know-it-alls.
Was there a question in there?
Let's go to Chris.
Comment.
I agree with everybody. I think they're pushing the narrative. Fear sells. We all know that. People are going to pay it. They're pushing this narrative. It's like business. You're going to run your business, and what do you want for your business? You want the most clients. You want the most attention. You want your business to top of the chain. So you're going to press that narrative, and you're going to use fear, or you're going to use whatever you think the people want to hear, and whatever clicks, they're going to continue to ride with it. But I agree with everybody else. The people, the boots on the ground people, the ones that are forgotten, the ones who are doing all the legwork, those are the ones that should be at the top of the food chain. Those are the ones that people should really pay attention to, and forget these people that are pushing their narrative on fear, like these guys are going to come down and laser beam us all to death, and and we're going to be their slaves for the rest of their lives. Again, this is just my opinion. I don't, and I'm just stating it, but I think follow the boots on the ground people that have been doing it for years, and forget about these people that are pushing the narrative, trying to make the money and trying to put fear into people. And I mean, if they wanted to take us, they would have taken us a long time ago, in my book. So,
see, and that brings up a good point about Tom DeLonge. Okay, if these aliens have been coming here for centuries, millennia, whatever it may be, I don't think they would wait until we had nuclear weapons to try and take us over. They would have got us when the most advanced weapon was a spear. Or maybe a bow and arrow, or a rock, right?
Or wouldn't have shown us how to build the pyramids, or the Mayan temples, or the big cities, and they helped do all that. They would have taken us back then. You know what I mean? Why now?
Well, that's kind of the argument, isn't it? I mean, I don't think he alludes that they're bad, but he doesn't say how.
I mean, it's
that they're doing.
Yeah,
and he's not the only one either. And Daryl Sims thinks they're bad too, right?
Right, but okay, and even to kick it back to the need for a federation. I mean, to me, that doesn't necessarily mean there's the good ones and the bad ones, and the Federation protects us from the bad ones. Like, if you're talking about an alliance or a federation between worlds or planets or different peoples, that's coming down to trade and commerce, and they have something we want and we have something they want, and we start negotiating. So I mean, we haven't seen the mass invasion yet, so I can only imagine that it would be to form some sort of trade, money. That's what humans are about, right? The materialistic, what can we get things. So
very true. Very true. And Jim, you wanted to make a comment on that too.
Yeah, no, I just Christian mentioned Belize or the jungle. I'm going to the jungle in 2 weeks. We're going to go looking for Mayan treasures. There's 12 of us going. We have a parcel of land that's 7,000 acres. It's been owned by the same guy for 40 years. He said most of it he's never even gone into. That's almost 11 square miles. Wow. And they did and we have a GoFundMe page. It hasn't gotten a lot of money yet, but we're still going. They did we paid to have a satellite imagery and look at the property, and there are 250-foot structures made of limestone under the canopy. So we're going in there with LiDAR. The owner of the property said he'll cut a road to wherever we want to go. I found my Kevlar chaps for the snakes, and those are they're bulletproof. Leave a hell of a dent, but they're still bulletproof. So it's going to be an adventure. I'm just looking forward to it, and hopefully it's going to be like I'll be like Jungle Jim or George of the Jungle. Yeah,
Jungle Jim.
Jungle Jim.
Yeah. So
wow.
That's all. I mean, that's
all.
That
sounds awesome.
Oh, it is. I mean, I've been to all the countries in Central America except for Belize. I did embassy resupply with the Air Guard out at Panama, a couple, for a while. So I've been to all the major cities, but I had never been to Belize, and it's one place I really wanted to go. It's so beautiful there. So there's 12 or 13 of us going, and it's everybody's self-funding. It's going to be an adventure. We're going to do it's going to be professional video is going to be taken of everything. I'm going to be doing all the shooting all the stills, and I'll post something every night. They allegedly have good Wi-Fi and good cell phone coverage there. So,
well, there's a perfect argument right there for the aliens to wipe out a civilization. Where did they all go? There was millions of people that lived there, millions, temples,
absolutely.
And they all just disappeared. So one could push the narrative saying aliens attacked us way back when, and wiped out us all, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So easily could be done that way too. So, but again, they were all built over aquifers.
Well, there's on the property. There's a.
I got to cut you off right there because we are going to break here at the bottom of the hour. We got 30 minutes left on Spaced Out Radio's incredible roundtable tonight. When we return on Spaced Out Radio, we will see what our panel wants to experience in the world of the woo. We'll be right back on the Mighty SOR.
You know,
Go ahead, Jim.
Oh, it absolutely amazes me how fast time goes when I'm doing this. I love it. I really do. I mean, I enjoy all of you guys so much.
Oh, we love you.
And Chris, the area we're going, there's it's the only freshwater spring for about 50 miles.
It's amazing the aquifers in history are the pyramids are built over aquifers. Tesla's tower was built over aquifers. So many places they're out in the Midwest. They're claiming that there's crafts that are leaving the aquifers that are out there. I think aquifers have a lot to do with a lot to do. So I was going with you because I would love to go out there and see that and experience it because they sacrificed humans out there too. You know what I mean?
I know. And John, the owner of the property, he's owned it for 40 years, and prior to that, it was owned for about 50 years by a group of hunters. They went. That was their private preserve for hunting jaguar. And then it become politically incorrect to go out and kill the great cats.
Right.
So we and we'll never see one. I mean, they could be 3 feet from you, you wouldn't know it. They're not going to mess with you unless you're hungry or injured or cornered.
Right.
But we're going to go in there, and the owner said of the property, he lives in Salt Lake City, and he said that he'll cut a road to where we need to go. So, and there's about 10 feet of overburden there. So it's about 1,000 years of growth.
Nice.
And decay. So if that area is totally under that thick of a cover of growth or whatever you want to call it, that would mean maybe it has not been pillaged over the eons.
Right. Well, let's hope so. The LiDAR will show you where the structures are for sure. So
absolutely. Yeah. So that's gonna be fun. I'm really looking forward to it. That's every 70-year-old guy should do that.
Have you ever tried meditation at night? Have you ever? Because you said you want to have a UFO experience. You ever try meditation?
Well, yeah, I go out by the pool every night, smoke weed, and I just I do it for medical purposes. Literally, I had 9.5 hours of brain surgery the day Challenger blew up, and I suffered from extreme headaches. And I have a headache right now. It's a 4. Yeah, when I'm awake, it's sort of white noise. You don't hear it after a while.
Right.
But it's when you're trying to relax, and it's just that, and it's not enough. It's not enough to I got a headache. I need some medication for it. It's just it's a gnawing piece, and I just I just it's either take narcotics or take. I mean, I'm talking about heavy stuff, or 3 Advil, 3 extra strength Tylenol and 2 Advil every 4 hours for 10 years before I decided I want to keep my liver and my kidneys.
Well,
And
Jim, that makes me want to ask you about, you said you were having like predictive dreams. A
yes,
lot of high strangeness gets triggered because of some sort of traumatic event. Do you think your surgeries that you dealt with maybe triggered some of this high strangeness? Does it
uh,
correlate at
but
all with the time of your life?
I've experienced events prior to my brain surgery. This is all when I lived in the Bay Area or when I was a kid. I grew up in the Mountain View, Los Altos area, which is now Silicon Valley. It used to be famous for fruits and nuts, the type that grow on trees or on plants and not the human kind. So
When you've obviously asked Jim to see these and you've tried to call them in, are you alone when you do this, or are you around other people?
oh no, I'm by my dog.
You're by yourself.
Sometime my rescue German Shepherd baby. Oh geez, it's like having a 4-year-old in the house.
Hey, Jim, I wanted to recommend something to you. There's a company called Psionics right here. It's not super expensive, and what you can do is get one of these bad boys, and it's basically a color night vision
Oh, okay.
monocular, and it's super easy to record. All the buttons are really easy to get to, and this is a great option to go out and do some incredible stargazing and night watching and recording. And you're going to find that you're able to look into multiple spectrums of light.
Hey, we gotta go. We rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Reminder to all of you that if you missed most of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Here we go, final half hour with our great panel tonight. We have from Discover Sasquatch, Chris Reinhardt. We have Tim Senor from the UFO Report. Random guy who's just randomly here. Nicole Sackich, author and researcher. From MUFON, Colorado, we have Katie Page, and longtime researcher and author Jim Goodall, the real legend in this field. And, we all want to have those cool kind of experiences that we just can't understand. We want to see it for our own eyes. We want to feel it. We want to touch it. We want to smell it. We want to have everything happen. Random guy, we're going to start with you on this one here, because I know you don't like high strangeness. You like practical things. I mean, you're the kind of guy who spends about an hour choosing which butter to pick out of the dairy section. Okay,
Facts. Big facts.
Big facts. Out of everything that you have learned since you've been hanging out here, what is something that you want to experience? What is something that would really open your eyes?
Well, since we're on the radio, I'll keep it PG. But I think here's the weird part for me. I'm super curious about the abduction stuff, and I'm terrified of it at the same time. So it's one of those things where I want to watch, but I don't actually want to be taken and abused I have enough PTSD for working for the government for over 20 years. I don't need any more. I
haven't for a while.
And I've already been probed emotionally in bad ways, if we will. But I am curious. I want to know, because that's so far, unfortunately, and our experiences shape us. And a lot of people are like, dude, sometimes you kind of crap on people. And I really don't mean to, but I've had people in my family that have schizophrenia, diagnosed 100%, right? And they tell similar stories. So for me, it's hard for me to get out of my experience and really buy into some things, certain stories, even if the person is legitimate. So it's like, I want to experience it, but not really. Like, I want to know, but I don't want to, if it's real, then I don't, that it sounds terrifying. Does that make sense? Because all the stuff that flies in the sky, I know about it. Everything. Like, I'm 100% sure. I have no doubt. When it comes to people being taken, stuff like that, I'm like, it kind of sounds erotic in a way, but some of the stories, but some of it sounds terrifying. So I don't know. That's where I'm at with that. I'm very curious.
Right. Do you think that's where you fall as like, and I'm not calling you out, but sort of being an outsider in the community? Like Dave was pointing out the free statistics earlier, or CCRI statistics, where they talk about the experiences, especially over time, turn into something positive, to where, Dave, I don't want to correct you, maybe you have more accurate statistics, but I thought it was more like 92% of people over time report positive experiences, which leaves the general public with this scary 8% of abductions and these, scenarios that would horrify anybody. Like, nobody wants the table experience.
But again, like we spoke about earlier, anything bad is going to get the press. Nobody wants to hear it.
That's what I mean. So the public hears about the spooky 8%, not the positive 92%. So,
yes, makes sense. No, I don't.
Even as with Jim, like asking for an experience, like what I noticed when I started dabbling in heists is that I was getting 0 results. And I think that's because I still had that lingering side thinking in my head, this is complete bullshit. But as soon as there was that leap of faith and you like let go of that side, that's when I noticed maybe the influx of bigger high strangeness that was already happening. So I don't know. I know my woo hat is fully on when I say this, but people report getting what they give. So if there's fear in that asking or wanting to experience that, then you're going to get that fear-based experience back. So that's why I don't know. I always caution people, be careful what you ask for, especially if we're dealing with something that's consciousness connected, maybe non-local, then, they're going to get subconscious fear that you might not even recognize. So
yeah, I don't want to be probed necessarily. That's not what I'm saying. Like, I want to understand the experience so that I can get answers. And I feel like, unfortunately, for something like that, you almost have to go through it, right? Because there's either experiencers or there's people that are not. And there's really, it's kind of black and white. Like, right. you can be empathetic about other people's experiences, but if you haven't lived it, you're not going to relate to it. So it's kind of like one of those things, like, I want to know, but I don't want to know that bad. I
don't think every man has that probed experience, though. I don't think it's as many as people think that it is.
Nicole brings up a really good point about what you put out, you get back. And for a lot of people, and you mentioned this a little bit earlier, that traumatic, you asked Jim about trauma. And there's been a lot of really good PhD research on trauma disassociation and the paranormal and UFO encounters and crypto encounters, and that really good data on that. And it also talks about how we mentioned a lot of contactees and experiencers have the, PTSD, and it starts out as a very fearful event, right? Nobody wants to be probed, like random guy said, or taken against their will. And so it starts out this way. But like what Dr. Leo Sprinkle learned through his 40 years of research, a lot of times that fear turns into a very spiritual journey for a lot of contactees, and it turns into something positive and spiritual. So maybe, if it's 80-90% of positive, it may not have started out that way, right? So I just want to say, be careful with what you wish for. And also, it's important to keep that positive high vibration mind. But, for me personally, I feel like once you have these experiences, it almost stays with you long term. And for me personally, I've been up here, by myself in the Rocky Mountains, and sometimes I don't want to have these paranormal experiences of my coffee pot turning on in the middle of the night, or sounds in my closet, or whatever. So, it can still be a little frightening.
All right, let's move on. Katie, you were just speaking. Let's stick with you here. Out of everything you have experienced, what is something you haven't experienced yet that you would want to?
Oh, what an interesting question. I've never been asked that before. Gosh, something I haven't experienced. I mean, I have had a Sasquatch encounter. I've had a lot of paranormal encounters. I've had UFO encounters. I don't know about actually being abducted or taken. I mean, I have it came out when Dr. Leo Sprinkle hypnotized me, but I don't know if I believe it. So I don't really have conscious memory of being taken. I have sort of thoughts about it and dreams about it, but I don't necessarily believe it. So I guess I would want a conscious contact abduction scenario where I can actually remember something like that.
That is very cool. How about you, little Timmy Senor?
Can't hear you. You're on mute.
I did. What's going on? All right, there you go. We're only as good as our 5 or for some people 6 senses. And so for me, I would love to be able to record something that goes beyond just my own personal senses. Because so far I've realized that I can be fooled. My eyes can be fooled. I can have something happen to me, and I can interpret it completely incorrectly than what actually took place. And I can be a firsthand witness to it. So what I hope to some point have is something that is a little bit more substantial than just that experience. And so I've been lucky so far. I've had a couple of things that I think have been real UFO. I've never experienced anything paranormal but that. But I hope someday to walk away with something tangible from a real UFO experience.
That makes very, very cool sense. All right, let's go to you, Chris Reinhardt from Discover Sasquatch.
Well, I've had paranormal Sasquatch experience, UFO experience. I guess it's not the experience that I want, as I want control over my telepathy, because I've received telepathy in the last couple months of faces coming to me and names and stuff like that. And I would love to have in my meditation control of talking and to be able to stay there, because I can only get there and stay there for 6 to 10 minutes. And then I for some reason, I can't hold on there that long. I'd like to be able to stay in there and be able to ask more questions and find out more answers. But the next day they're followed by physical things that only the people that were in that meditation that night would know. And Nicole just brought up something that I never knew. I went through surgery after surgery after surgery after surgery for 4 years, and then the telepathy started. I'd love to learn more about why that is and how that happened. But like I said, I want control of my meditations. I want to control that mental telepathy. I want to be able to talk these beings that are leaving me names and faces, and Natari was one of them, and Archibald was another. They're all Sasquatch people. But the next day, I'll tell you a quick story, then I know it's almost in the show, but one night I got the name Natari, and that's a name that you never ever say, in the face. And the next day I gifted with the Sasquatch for 6 years. And there was a stuffed monkey that we used at the gifting site. And we used to take the Tupperware container and bury it under the ground with rocks and stuff on top. Well, outside, after the meditation and the telepathy, everything that night, outside on my back lawn was this another stuffed monkey in a Tupperware container on my back lawn. And there's no way that nobody else would have known that happened the night before, and then to put that stuff there. And then the Archibald thing was like a month later. It was a little 4-foot little Sasquatch guy, and he took the monkey back. That monkey disappeared with him the night after he came to me. So I really want to be able to stay in that meditation and find out if I can get some answers. That's what I'm looking for.
Don't blame me. How about you, Uncle Jim?
Well, the one thing that terrifies me is my dreams of a future event. I've been having this for over 10 years now. I've been in 5 major earthquakes. I was underneath the Hollywood sign during the Northridge earthquake. That was a lot of fun. I was in the corner of Geary and Stockton for the Loma Prieta earthquake, and we had one in Whidbey Island. That was a 6-point something. But I keep having the same recurring dream that I'm in the Pacific Northwest, Tim. I'm in the Pacific Northwest, and the Cascadia subduction zone decides it's going to rip. And you get a 10 on the Richter scale for 8 to 12 minutes. And the geologists and volcanologists at the University of Washington said, when this happens, it's not if it's going to happen, it's just when it's going to happen. There will be nothing west of I-5 left. It'll be gone. And I keep having this dream that I'm there. And my best friend in the whole wide world lives there, and I really want to go visit him. My brother, not so much. But it's a dream that keeps coming back. And I'm going to Seattle this summer, so I'm gonna go see Lazar after Vegas, and then go give Tim a visit, and then I'll be up in Seattle for 2 or 3 days, and then off to Boise. And I love road trips. I have a comfortable car and it's fast. So.
Of course it's fast.
Yeah. Nicole, how about you? What do you want to experience?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know if I can give an honest answer with that, because it's kind of like the warning that I gave before. You got to be careful what you wish for or ask for. I will say, like, the things that I have scoffed at before, or like just totally thought was bogus, has kind of come back to woo slap me, So
I get that.
Just that, and I guess if I have to pick one, I would maybe pull it out of the UFO realm a little bit, and that's I've had so many who I now consider friends, like medium and channels, kind of come to me and talk to me about this idea of guardians and your higher self, and that they've passed through messages for me. So I think maybe and this is where it gets a little sappy. Like, I would really love to speak with a loved one that's passed away, like my grandma. Like, that, to me, I think it would give me that, like, personal, undeniable thing. But there's also that risk factor, It's like you always wonder, is it really your loved one, or is it the phenomenon manipulating something somehow? So,
well, the brain's a powerful organ. I mean, when I was going in for brain surgery, my pulse was good. My blood pressure was really, really good. And Dr. Harner says, "Jim, you're not very nervous." I said, "Doc, I'm in Mayo Clinic. I already come to terms with dying. I said, if you can't fix me, no one can. Give it your best shot." And he said, that's 40% of successful brain surgery, going in with a positive attitude. And it's because your brain really controls whether or not you're healthy or not. I think in most cases. So, but I made it. I wasn't supposed to, but I did, and it's been a long time. Yeah.
Yay.
Well, I'm going to keep you in my meditation gyms, and hopefully you can have your sky experience.
I do. I mean,
quantum entanglement. I'm telling you,
yeah,
works.
Real.
Well, I know they're here. I had a friend of mine works for NSA, and when they announced that Tucker Carlson had the thing here, 2019, I sent an email out, and I got an immediate response. Did you see one? I said no, and it came back. I can't see any more, but they're here. And she's been with the NSA for 25 years. So I keep trying to track her down face to face so we can talk, so there's no electronic interference. And I keep running up short. So, oh well.
Oh, we still love you. We
How
still
about
love
you,
you.
Dave? How about you? What do you want to experience that you haven't yet?
I never think about that.
The
I
time
want
now.
to see a dog man. I want to see a dog man, and I want to get scared, and I want to never see it again, and I want to drive my Jeep out of that area at about 100 miles an hour and get out of my Jeep realizing that I peed my pants and out of being so scared, and that's what I want. I want to see it once and once only.
Yeah,
that'll be enough. I don't know why the thing scares the daylights out of me. It really does, but I know they're in my area. I know where they are. And it's just a matter of me, growing the cojones to actually drive out to that area and investigate. That's what it is. Now, if I can do that, maybe I will have an encounter. I don't know. But the rest of it, I want to see my Sasquatch guy again this year. I want to see him again. I know that's going to happen. But, yeah, that darn dog man, that one just freaks me out.
Yeah, me too. You can have them. I don't want to see no dog man ever.
No, man. Just once.
No man, dog man.
Just once.
I want to see a UFO. I want to be abducted, interrogated, not necessarily probed. I really do. I mean, there's a lot of things on my bucket list that I've been checking off, and it just amazes me sometimes how much I've accomplished on that list.
Yeah, I hope you get your wish, and I hope you have a couple copies of your book to hand to them, so at least they'll be up on what we do have for technology.
Elon Musk loved my Blackbird book, and that's why I got the tour of SpaceX.
Are you
cool.
Are you talking about the stealth?
No, the Blackbird one.
Oh, I don't have that one.
Yeah.
And on that note, our great panel of Katie Page, Jim Goodall, Chris Reinhardt, Nicole Sackett, Tim Senor, and Random Guy, big thank you for making tonight a very, very good show. Much appreciate all of you tuning us on in and joining us tonight. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at work, at home, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, Elgap, Facebook, Spreaker, LinkedIn, the Space Travelers Club, and on Twitter at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. I know you're out there somewhere. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends,
we own the night.
Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo train has docked for the night. But soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we got room for them too. Good night. All right, we are clear.
I got one question. How many demerits does Nicole get for cussing on the live radio show?
Nicole.
And
Out of all
Did I
people.
do that? I didn't know such
25.
When did I cuss?
Exactly 19 minutes ago.
You didn't see Dave with the literal F under his breath.
Gotta edit every once in a while. It's okay.
Usually I'm the bad one, so I'm just happy it wasn't me. Like
I remember the first time I cussed on Spaced Out Radio.
Hey, I want to thank all of you. I mean, Tim, Katie, Nicole, Chris, Random Guy, and especially
don't thank me.
The golden voice of Central British Columbia, Mr. Dave Scott. I thoroughly enjoyed tonight.
So much fun.
Like I say, I've always been a loner, but I feel so comfortable with you guys, and I thank you all, and it's fun to be here, and anything I can do to help anybody, anything I have, I'll share.
We feel the love, Jim, right back at you.
So,
All of you.
Take the fast car.
yeah.
And hey, Jim, before you go, is that John Tester, the famous tester of tester modeling kits?
John Andrews of Testers, yes, same guy.
Where did he get the ideas for some of those UFO models?
Directly from Bob Lazar. Bob sat down with him in San Diego, and
very interesting.
Yeah, so the sports model that was from a Tal area or Testers, that was designed and created by John Andrews directly from all the information that Lazar gave him.
That's so cool. And Testers also had the Glock. The Glockenspiel. I'm not sure the German UFO. They also had that as a tester's kit, and some secret some kind of that almost looked like UFOs, but they had U.S. Air Force pilots in them. Some very interesting model kits came from Testers, and so I was wondering, did they have inside knowledge?
No, John Andrews he was a brilliant guy. He loved what he does. I knew him 50 years. There isn't anybody who has ever met or had anything to do with John Andrews has anything bad to say about him. I mean, he's just you only run into a couple of people like that in your life where there's no way anybody could have a bad thing to say about this person. John Andrews was one of them. My boss at the Museum of Flight in Seattle, Tom Cathcart, is another one. I mean, he's just a sweetheart of a guy. But no, he was brilliant when it came to, he's the reason why Ben Rich and I became pen pals, or actually phone pals for 25 years, because my best friend was John Andrews. And we'd always assume that we were being monitored. So when John would call me, now he was the one who usually called me because his was the company line. This is before cell phones. There was a world that far back, and we would say testing 1, 2, 3, testing 1 through 3. This is spy 1 calling spy 2. I was spy 2.
That's great.
Testing. Today we're going to talk about Aurora. We're going to talk about senior prom. We're going to talk about tag board. We're going to talk about all sorts of names and throw them in there.
Yeah.
And then we said, okay. And then we
Spaced Out Radio. Sometimes.
And then it was just, and we would just talk. But I can remember I was on the road. John was on the road. I knew where to call him, or he knew where to call me. And he called me, and from on the road. And we were planning to fly a remote-controlled foam airplane with a camera in it over Area 51.
That's awesome.
And I got a call. I got from. I got an email. That's what I got an email from the Deputy Director for Program Security for Special Projects, Mr. Pete Ames, and he said, "Jim, the rumor mill has it that you and some of your buddies, like Andrews, are thinking about flying on your own little UAV over Area 51."
Wow.
I said, "I don't think it would be a good idea." And how did he know? I mean, this is before cell phones. And I was in a hotel, and I just happened to. That's the hotel I was going to go to. So.
Big Brother was watching even back then.
They were back before during the Kennedy assassination.
Hey Jim, do you know about Faultless out there? Where they it's called Faultless. They detonated an atomic bomb underground right outside of Rachel. So we were out exploring in Area 51, and we went to Faultless and got a flat tire out there. And literally, it's kind of a joke because we didn't know we had a spare. I thought we were going to die out in the middle of the desert. All we had was Twizzlers and water, and we're sitting in the little bit of shade from the pickup truck. And I'm picturing all of us as skeletons out there in the desert. But then we went to the back gate of Area 51, and we got 2 more flat tires. And I actually caught a really cool picture of a jet coming right up above us with a Dragonfly drone. That was like around us. We had the camo dudes here and the camo dudes here, but they would never approach us.
Yeah.
They had to hike clear back. It was like, I don't know, at least 10 miles back to the little alien to get a tow truck, which we had to bribe to get the truck out of there. So we had some fun Area 51 adventures.
Yeah.
they don't mess around out there, I'll tell you what.
What year was that?
When John Andrews.
Well, pre-COVID.
So. What year then?
It must have been like 2017, 18.
Okay.
Hey, Jim.
What, were you there? Do you know about that?
He's like, I remember you.
I know that there's a highlight reel of people that do dumb shit out there.
Yeah, that was us. We were in a white truck.
I've seen some funny videos, like when Jesse Ventura went out there and other people went out there. I've seen some funny shit from the other people.
This was not funny. We thought we were going to die. Thank God for the Twizzlers in the water.
Hey, Jim, I just thought of something to ask you.
Sure.
And I mean, I know notoriously, Bob Lazar.
Yep.
But there's so many Bobs in aerospace over the decades, and so many people. I know Bills and Bobs, right? But
yeah.
Did you ever know Bob Wood, Dr. Robert Wood?
I don't know that name.
Yeah, I know Bob.
No, it doesn't. I mean, it doesn't sound familiar. It doesn't mean I hit our paths.
Right.
Crossed.
I know he worked. I think it was for Boeing for years and years, and
okay.
I've been recently kind of diving into the secret space program and things that he's said and come forth with over the years. And an interesting thing is I never really knew that he worked with Stanton Friedman and kind of helped validate or dig into the MJ-12 documents too. So he's just kind of a fascinating character for me right now.
Yeah, he's very interesting. I talked to him. Is he still with us?
I believe he's passed.
I think he passed too, just like a couple of years ago. But he was very encouraging on my Roswell body research and actually told me a few really good tidbits. And so that he was very, very supportive of that and listened very contently and had some things to say about it. So it was really cool.
And who's his son? Is it Ryan Wood?
Bob Wood.
His work? Yeah, but who's Bob's son? Ryan? Maybe?
Oh, I don't know his son. No, I don't.
Never trust anybody named Bob, Frank, or George. Bob
Or
Frank and
random.
George are the biggest liars in the history of society.
Katie.
You can always trust somebody named Katie. They're usually saying something they're not supposed to talk about.
It's true. Wear it on the sleeve. That's true.
Katie, you're speaking at the Ozarks this month, aren't you?
I am speaking of the Ozarks, so that'll be fun.
Yay.
I love that town. It's just an awesome little town to hang out in. So that'll be fun.
Assuming that the tornadoes don't, take out the sun.
No, don't tell me that.
Today was rough.
Today
was the day of tornadoes. Yeah.
Oh shoot! I don't have the news, so I'm unaware of the tragedies.
So yeah, horrible for that.
Well, that's not good. Well, I hope everybody's okay.
Yeah.
What was the other news today? They found an ocean under the ocean.
Bingo. Oh,
What?
good call. Yeah, we were going to talk about the undercrust news here, Random. Do you want to take it away?
Well, gee, what would I know about that, Timmy?
We were chatting about undercrust today.
No, it's an interesting thing. So basically, the TLDR on it is there's 3 times the amount of H2O stored in rock form underneath the crust, about 400 down. And the reason that's interesting is because it would need to be heated to be released. It's not actually flowing like the oceans we know, right?
Hey,
So-
Random, give me 2 seconds here before you continue.
An outsider in the community,
I have
like
Edit a bullshit.
Dave was pointing out the
I think
freeze
Dave's going to edit something real
or
quick.
CCRI statistic where they talk about the experiences, especially over time, turn into something positive to where, Dave, I don't want to correct you. Maybe you have more accurate statistics, but I thought it was more like 92% of people over time report positive experiences, which leaves the general public with this scary 8% of abductions and these, scenarios that would horrify anybody. Like nobody wants the table experience.
But again, like we spoke about earlier, anything bad is going to get the press. Nobody wants to hear it.
And that's what I mean. So the public hears about the spooky 8%, not the positive 92%.
Yes, makes sense. No, I don't.
Even as with Jim, like asking for an experience, like what I noticed when I started dabbling in heists is that I was getting 0 results. And I think that's because I still had that lingering side thinking in my head, this is complete bullshit.
Oh, there it was.
You found it.
So naughty.
Yeah. This barely classifies, but as soon as there was
Are we clear?
that leap of faith.
Thank you. Go
Cool.
ahead.
What's and so Random, while you're talking about that, it's interesting how they discovered this, right? Because it happened because
Diamonds.
thanks to a diamond that was recovered 660 kilometers deep in the final layer, which separates the Earth's lower and upper mantle. And by analyzing that precious stone, scientists discovered a considerable quantity of water. And so the evidence adds weight to the existing theory that we thought that there was a huge ocean suspended between the upper and lower mantle of the Earth.
So why is this relevant to us, Timmy?
Yeah.
Well, I can tell you a number of reasons why it's relevant. Underground aquifers is a massive discovery. And I was finding it when I was out in Utah. It was throwing off all of my readings. And so, underground water, and especially at this layer, could absolutely have so many knock-on effects to science right now. Not just in this topic, but also in a lot of other areas of research, for sure. But why do you find it interesting in particular, Rando?
For 3 reasons. Number one is it shows that at some point, at a long point in history past the time, that something else life form wise could have existed here in another form. Number two, it provides a resource. One of the things we're talking about, one of the actual biggest threats to humanity going forward in the next century is lack of fresh water. People are talking about desalination. They're talking about, hydrogen conversion, all this stuff. Well, if there's a way, I understand at this point, it's kind of unobtainable how deep it is to be realistic about it, to get it up. But if there's a way created, then you can bring that water up, right? And then we can use that, and you can manage that in a physical way that you can't really do with water because of the way you have to shuffle water around and manage it, guide it, how it can, burn off. The third way is if we can harvest that stuff and put it on a rocket ship and send it to the moon or to Mars, we can create our own water source or hydrogen fuel source anywhere portably, just using that subset of rock without having to actually move. So water, the density of this rock is supposedly also less than water. Water weighs about 8 pounds per gallon. And that's one of the main reasons it's also a pain in the ass to move around the planet or take wherever logistically you need, whether militarily or otherwise. And if it's true that it has less density in that form and we can project that to other places, then yeah, that's another capability.
Awesome. Awesome.
Well, guys, I'm going to go. Thanks, Dave, for having me. It was good to see
Dave,
you, Chris, Jim, Nicole.
I'm going to go too.
Good to see you, Katie.
Jim, thanks so
Hi,
much.
Nicole. Stay in
Katie,
touch.
you look great.
Thanks,
Katie.
Jim.
Nicole.
As do you.
Katie, when you could talk about your deal there, I'd love to have you back again. And
yeah, it's supposed to air before the end of the year, and then I just found out the Gaia will air on May 1st, I think it was. So that'll be cool to see on George Norrie. Yeah. So that'd be cool. Anyway, Jim, good luck on. Oh, I was going to tell him good luck on his exhibition. I hope he finds some buried treasure and shares it with all his friends.
Yeah, good luck in the jungle, Jim.
Yeah, he already left. Oh, well, good luck in the jungle, Jim. Jungle Jim. Thanks, Dave. You guys have a great night.
Good night.
Bye, Katie.
I just want to say thanks to everybody. I'm the newbie here, and you guys made me feel right at home, and I appreciate it. I had two UFO experiences. I had one here 100 foot above my house that was the size of a football field, and it was unreal.
Wow.
And
Nice to meet you, Chris.
it was
a believer.
Copper colored, and it was made out of all triangles, and it was an octagon. It was the craziest thing I've ever seen. It made no noise. It hovered, and when it banked and it turned, it went up on its side so you could see the top of it. And then it leveled out like this. It had 3 lights on it, a light on the front and 2 on the back. And Maria and myself, we chased it, and it just, as soon as it came, it appeared, and just like that, it disappeared into the woods. I've seen a Sasquatch numerous times. I've never seen anything like this. This was incredible.
Wow.
Wow.
I love that story.
But I thank you, because you guys know all about all this, and I appreciate you having me on and treating me like a regular person without snubbing me.
Please come back. It was great to meet you, Chris.
Yeah.
And I love the hair. Thank you so much for taking the hat off. Now we can appreciate the beauty.
Yeah.
Good choice. Very good choice.
It wasn't really by choice, but it just happened.
It's always a choice, Chris. It's always a choice.
If I grew my hair out, I would have one little patch of hair right in the middle, like a unicorn horn, and then I'd have right here, and then a little patch of hair in the back. So it wouldn't look too good, unless I went with a unicorn look.
I always remind people that I haven't lost my hair. I know exactly where it is. I keep it in a bag under the sink, and it's been there since 1989 or something. But yeah, man, it was great having you.
Nicole, where do I find out more about this surgery thing with the telepathy? Because
well, this is kind of a crossover that I guess I called my partner, or I'm his assistant, Grant Cameron, and I have started really interviewing and trying to find parallels between near-death experiences and UFO experiences. And this is something that just kept coming up time after time after time, whether it was somebody who had an out of body experience, a near death experience, a UFO experience, whether it was childhood trauma or car accidents or, brain injuries, which also tied into just some other work out there on consciousness, like the God helmet or the Shakti helmet, and kind of diving into, these areas of the brain that may or may not be affected by physical trauma or emotional trauma. So, somebody specific, off the top of my head, I'm sorry, it's late, but I could point you to Grant YouTube. We've done a lot of interviews, which I think he was calling them his rabbit hole experiences or rabbit hole sessions. And yeah, you'll just hear time and time again. One of the fascinating ones to me was it was a couple that was in a car wreck and they experienced an out of body together. And yeah, I mean, one of them was pronounced dead on scene and, was brought back to life. And I think post the accident, they started having these high strangeness experiences of whether it was seeing dead loved ones or like being able to predict the future in some scenarios. Or I think even one of them came to discover that the right side of their brain had kind of made new neural connections to the left side of the brain. So they were essentially all right brained and they were very hyper creative from that point on. Just interesting stories like that. But this is kind of pushing the boundary of, what we consider high strangeness. And there really isn't a lot of books or articles on it yet. I think Jeffrey Mishlove, his YouTube might be another good resource. I think it's called New Thinking Aloud, and he dives into this topic often.
Okay, let me write that down. New Thinking Aloud.
Yep, New Thinking Aloud. But honestly, with the free surveys and the CCRI surveys that Ray Hernandez does, I forget how many questions are involved in the survey. I think it's something like 2,000 questions. And I think that's where it really statistically started popping up, where we could see, some kind of data points on it other than just stories.
Well, very cool. Thank you so much. I've had 3 surgeries on my right eye of my retina. And now I've had to depend on my left eye. Like you just said, the right side took over to the left brain. Mm-hmm. Now, like my left eye had to take control over my right eye. So I don't know. Who knows? There could be a connection with all that too. So
right. And well, I think in our community, they say you have your left brain is like your inhibitor to the woo side, your right side creative mind, which is also kind of an archetype for the divine feminine. So it's like that feminine creative side of your brain, rewires and takes over that analytical, logical side that's going to try to fill in and give you an explanation for the unexplained. So,
all right. Well, I believe there's no more coincidence in my life anymore. All the stuff that's been happening. So I had a coyote leg left at my back door, ripped off the dog fresh with blood still on it and everything because I couldn't make it to my gifting spot for a month because I had surgery on my stomach. And I've been just getting stuff like that for last few years. I just had a bird left between our doors a week ago, stuff like that. They come here and it's just, wow. Yeah, I had a black helicopter over my house 2 months ago.
A helicopter flew over us tonight while we were in our round table here.
Wow. Most helicopters are black, though.
Well, this one,
assuming it was emergency transport, but I don't. It felt like it hovered, really loud for a minute. But
Yeah, mine was 20 feet above the tree line over my apartment, and it was all no lights on, no nothing. It just hovered there for 10 minutes.
wow,
And then took off, and then we could find no records of it anywhere the next day. And then the 2 nights later, when the UFO came over the house, and that's when that all went down. So very, very strange occurrences. But thank you for all the info, and thank you for having me, Dave. Dave's back now. Thank you, Dave. It's
No
been
problem, buddy.
anytime, Chris.
I appreciate you all, and if you ever want to come on my show, I got a show too, and I'd love to have all you guys on there too. Dave's been on there before. We got to have him come back, and so.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
All right, thank you. You guys all have a good night. I'm on the East Coast, so it's what time is it now? 4 a.m.
Oh,
3:24.
Only
All right.
12:20, Chris. We're good. Let's keep the party going.
I've got 2:20.
Thank you. Nice meeting you all.
You too, Chris.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Actually, random guy, that's something I could probably ask you since we were
I'm
just
actually
talking.
going to, you guys, just real quick to interrupt. I'm going to take off. There's been fun. Thanks a lot. And I will see you guys soon.
I was thinking you talked way too much tonight, Tim.
I know I've been blabbing it up. So
You
I'll
just
let you guys,
kind of tone it down next time.
I'm letting you parlay it into a fun night. So I'll talk to you guys soon. Have a
Love
great
you,
night. Ciao.
Hi, Tim. Always a pleasure.
Get these, Timmy.
Oh, he did
And then
the.
there were 3. Ask your question, Nicole.
Well, everybody talks about these black helicopters, right? They're nefarious. They show
Yeah,
up, chase
been on many of them.
those and all this stuff. But what I've noticed here in Illinois is I'll take reports from civilians in the area, and then kind of our routine is we contact our local Air Force base, and they kind of listen to us. At the most, like I'll get a rumor hearsay that pilots have also seen something. But what my group has kind of noticed is that after we call in civilian reports to the base, we see a white helicopter unmarked kind of all throughout the area. And we've heard rumors that that's OSI.
No, that's not how that
Think
works.
about that? I mean,
That's
this
not how that works.
doesn't look like a military helicopter. It's just white and unmarked. but
OSI doesn't. So OSI is the Office of Special Investigations. They
right.
serve 2 primary purposes: to investigate threats and then investigate people that work for the government. That's their
Right.
2 primary jobs. They're not out there. That's why when I hear these OSI guys out here acting like they're doing something,
Well, I mean, like a black helicopter is just
a Black Hawk helicopter is like a Honda Civic in the world of the military. It's not
right.
special.
So that's what
We
I
have
mean.
them everywhere. They mean
If
nothing.
if that base would be sending out a black helicopter to investigate civilian sightings, it would definitely get noticed, though, is what I'm
So
getting.
here, my point is this: a Black Hawk helicopter is like the cheapest option the military has to investigate anything. If anything flies and they need to recon an area, check a field, drop a weather ball. So they drop weather balls when they do testing. The Black Hawk's what they do. SAR, search and rescue, Black Hawk. PJs, search and rescue, Black Hawk. Depending on SOCOM, 30 to 50% Black Hawk. So it's not necessarily, even with training stateside anywhere, that's not really that big of a deal. And guess what color they all are? Black.
Right.
So it's not really that big of a deal. You really need to look at the intent there. They're not going to send up helicopters to track aliens. It's just not going to happen. So if people are having sightings and then they see a Black Hawk, a black helicopter, yeah, it's either a coincidence or they're doing something else. And the reality is this: in most cases, if you have a sighting and then see either an F-16 or a Black Hawk, it's probably our stuff.
Well, yeah, and I agree with you there. But I think what a lot of experiencers are saying is that they're not necessarily chasing the UFOs. It's like they're investigating the location or
You
the experiencers themselves.
That's all completely conjecture from the eyewitnesses that already have a heightened frame of mind of what they saw and what the situation is. From the military government side, it's completely different. If you see Blackhawks and F-16s, and it's like in an immediacy of a UFO report, probably not a UFO. Just going. I'm not saying all the time, I'm just saying probably not. Probably not. I'll leave it at that.
Dave, you look
I'm
like
editing.
you're thinking something.
Sorry, I'm editing right now. Just give me a sec.
Nicole, why'd you turn your camera off? Because you were staring at me. You don't want me to see me. You don't want me to watch you staring at me anymore.
No, because I turn my camera off when I'm smoking a cigarette.
So dirty. That's so disgusting. You
It
and
is.
Dave are
I don't
disgusting.
smoke on camera.
Nicotine bandits.
I don't want to hear it from the chat room or get like a what?
Oh,
What if
so I'm the only one exposing my flaws on live broadcast?
I'll be back. I'm also getting tired, so the more tired I get, then yeah, I go off camera. I'm being you tonight. You're usually the faceless dot.
Yeah, I'm also. Oh, what? Okay, that's bad. That's bad. Yeah, that's bad. Anyways, what else? You have any other questions, Nicole? It's the first time I've ever had the privilege of being on a stream with you. I'm a big fan.
Stop. That's too stupid.
Stop blushing. Answer the question.
I don't know if I have any other questions right now. You're such a noob. I don't want to overload you.
Yes. Take advantage of my noobness. Abuse me.
Well, I don't know. Like, I know you said you kind of want to be abducted, which I found very hilarious.
I don't really want it. I just think it would be erotic. I don't know.
Because
I've had worse, I'm sure.
Pop culture space babe in your brain somehow, to where it's like, because like some of the earlier experiencers or contactees, like a lot of them had, like the Star Child babe that was like blonde hair. There was Dave, remember that case I sent you where the guy actually, his wife cited his alien girlfriend on their divorce papers?
Yes, that was awesome.
I should have used that one.
Said she couldn't compete with her husband's alien girlfriend that abducted him all the time.
Insert joke here.
That was a really famous case at the time, though.
That's wild.
Let's see where we are.
Did you get rid of all of Nicole's spoiling your show tonight, Dave?
He did.
It's all gone.
That was barely.
I think we should force Nicole to buy a Random Guy t-shirt just for ruining the show.
Dave was supposed to send me one, but he never did.
Dave, come on. Get my number one
Unless
fan.
it's lost in the mail from Canada, because sometimes it's like whatever comes from Canada takes 4 weeks longer to get to me than it should. Why is that? Is it like, do you guys have like the old version of the Pony Express? Is it like the Moose?
They literally transfer everything via horseback.
It's Moose. Via Moose up there.
The hats they wear have too much wind drag on them while they're riding. But at least they're good at talking.
Beanie. What's it called? A toque? Toque?
Toque?
Yeah. I don't think you guys invented that, but
Canada didn't invent anything.
On that note, we are going to say Good night to everybody here on Spaced Out Radio. Don't forget this weekend, Jessica Jones is here, along with our good friend, the After Hours Show with Marquise, Danielle, and Big Tex. So make sure you tune it in Saturday and Sunday night. I will be back on Monday, where my guest will be, who is that? Mike Walker, UFO witness. We'll talk to him about it. See you all tomorrow night, or we'll see you on Monday, everyone. Take care.
Good night.
Be ready. Bye, Nicole.
Stay healthy, my friend.
You too.
If you need bail money, give me a call.
Always, Dad. Take care.
You too.